Chapter 1406. What if I insist? The Qian family elder was so furious that his lungs were about to explode. He did not ask why others could come, but he could not because the reason was already clear. It was just that the Qian family was being treated differently. The disciple's attitude was still respectful, but his words were unyielding. A touch of coldness appeared on his young face. Honorable guest, please be careful with your words. This is the residence of 9 Supremes, and it has its own rules. If you insist on trampling on the rules, as a disciple of the residence of 9 Supremes, I can only defend the dignity of the residence with my life. His words had already reached the crux of the matter, directly pointing out the crux of the matter. How dare you? The Qian family expert could not hold back his anger. We are guests here. Isn't it our fault that the residence of 9 Supremes is treating us differently? Is this how the residence of 9 Supremes treats its guests? The residence of 9 Supremes' disciple's expression remained unchanged as he said, "How dare I neglect a guest who has come to the residence of 9 Supremes? However, a guest should also perform his duty as a guest. How is it befitting of a guest to turn the tables and barge into an important place?" The Qian family expert was fuming with anger. He strode forward and said, "Get out of the way." Clang! The residence of 9 Supremes' disciple unsheathed his sword and roared like a dragon, "Stop!" Before his voice died away, a voice rang out in the distance, "What's the matter? There is a guest here who keeps dissuading us and wants to force his way into the residence of 9 Supremes. How dare you?" The voice suddenly turned stern. Then, 2 figures flew over quickly. They were a man and a woman. The woman was residence of 9 Supremes' first-generation disciple, senior sister Yun Xiuxin, and the man was third senior brother Hu Xiaofan. Now that the 2 most lawless disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes had come together, the drama was destined to be difficult to end. What are you doing? The Qian family was also furious, and they had a reason to be angry. What does the residence of 9 Supremes want to do? Don't tell me you want to restrict our freedom with just a few of your disciples. This is too much. As soon as the Qian family experts took a step forward, Hu Xiaofan had already turned around and said, "Don't mind, mistress. It's just a small matter. Let the disciples handle it." Mistress? When Hu Xiaofan arrived and saw that they were about to make a move, he immediately cowered. These people from the Qian clan were high-level saint venerables, and there were even saint monarchs. If they were to make a move, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. The first thing he did was to call for help. As he spoke, Ji Lingxi, who had just joined the residence of 9 Supremes, came out with a veil covering her face. Judging from the mistress's aura, she was obviously not someone to be trifled with. When the Qian family leader was about to bow and explain the cause of the conflict, Ji Lingxi spoke first. The Qian family is one of the few great aristocratic families in this world. How can you be so rude? The residence of 9 Supremes has always treated us with courtesy and sincerity. How can the Qian clan bully my disciple? Who is the clan leader? Why doesn't he step forward and do something about it? She looked dissatisfied. Isn't this bullying? The patriarch of the Qian clan, Qian Xingjin, who had forced a smile on his face, was so angry that he almost burst his stomach in an instant. What kind of words were those? Who was the one bullying who? Do you know the whole story or not? Couldn't they be more reasonable? Where was justice, right and wrong? Where was the human heart? How could he not lower his head when he was under someone else's roof? Intimidated by Yun Yang's ferocious reputation, Qian Xingjin suppressed his anger and explained with cupped hands, "Madam Ji, this is what happened." Ji Lingxi listened with a frown and grew even more displeased. "Leader Qian, I have to say something about this. The disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes are all young and still children. It's understandable that they made some mistakes. Who hasn't been a brat before? But you're an adult. Even if the children did something wrong out of carelessness, are you going to be calculative with them? How can you be so shameless to be calculative with a few brats? And to think that you're the patriarch of a family." He was still a child, to be calculative with a few brats? Qian Xingjin was so enraged by these words that he wished he was dead. Madam Yun, you can't say that, Patriarch Qian, could it be that you really want to make things difficult for my children? Are you really going to be serious? Ji Lingxi frowned. All right, if you're not afraid of being implicated, I'll punish them severely later. It's their fault for offending you. Qian Xingjin swallowed hard. Madam Yun, the crux of this matter isn't that I'm being calculative with them, but that the Qian family is being treated differently. The Qian family doesn't want anything else but our reputation, Ji Lingxi said. Reputation? I didn't say that I'm not giving you face. Didn't I promise to punish them later? Isn't this giving the Qian family enough face? Or do you have other plans and insist on being calculative with a few children? Children, can you stop talking about children? Qian Xingjin finally could not hold it in any longer and said loudly, we're all people of the martial world. Isn't the right and wrong obvious? How can we resolve this dispute? Ji Lingxi was enraged as well, even more so than Qian Xingjin. She said in a low voice, Leader Qian, what do you mean by this? I've already compromised and admitted that a few of my disciples have handled things inappropriately. Why are you still so insistent and so loud? Look at you, not only do you want to be calculative with my disciples, but you also want to teach me a lesson. Qian Xingjin's eyes widened, feeling a breath stuck in his throat that he could neither swallow nor spit out. The anger in Ji Lingxi's eyes grew as she said, Leader Qian, I'm here to quell the disturbance, not to listen to your lesson. Even if the Qian family is one of the top 3 clans in the world and is so powerful that no one dares to provoke you, and even if the residence of 9 Supremes is only a small sect that was founded not long ago and is powerless to fight against you, even if justice isn't in the hearts of the people, even if right and wrong are claimed by others, the residence of 9 Supremes will never give in. This is preposterous. This is preposterous. Preposterous. Preposterous? It's not the residence of 9 Supremes' place to say this, is it? Also, what do you mean by listening to my lesson? When did I teach you a lesson? Qian Xingjin took a deep breath, his gaze cold. Madam, you're speaking so confidently. It looks like the residence of 9 Supremes is determined to make things difficult for the Qian family. Ji Lingxi laughed in anger. Leader Qian, the Qian family is famous for being a merchant, and it turns out that you're someone with a sharp tongue. Now, you're saying the opposite of what you're saying? Is the cause of this dispute between you and a few juniors? It's hard for me, an outsider, to comment on your lack of grace and magnanimity, but I've come to mediate with good intentions, haven't I? Now, you're shifting all the blame to me. You're really something. I've only said a few words, but clan leader Qian is getting more and more serious, pointing out that the entire residence of 9 Supremes is against you. What do you mean? Is there anything about the residence of 9 Supremes that you don't like? Although the residence of 9 Supremes is a newly established sect, we're not afraid of any force in this world's provocations. Just do it. By then, Zhan Wufei and the rest of the 4 palaces, 3 talents, 5 sacred lords, Li family, and Sikong family had heard the commotion and rushed over. However, they were a little late, so they could only hear the latter half of the argument, shaking their heads. This Qian family is too ungentlemanly. They're merchants after all, Zhan Wufei asked as soon as he landed, what's going on? What's going on? Can both of you give me some face and speak less? Let me sort things out for you, all right? He was all smiles as he said, today is a joyous day for the residents of 9 Supremes. Let's not cause any unhappiness and bring bad luck to ourselves. Qian Xingjin swallowed a few times, his gaze sharp as a knife as he said, this is what happened. Ji Lingxi listened and looked at the disciple beside her. Why is there no spiritual qi on leader Qian's side? The disciple had a look of, I'm innocent, on his face. Master's wife, where did this come from? The spiritual qi is clearly. Qian Xingjin was taken aback. Everyone else felt the same as well. The spiritual qi here is no different from other places. Where is it gone? There was no difference in the spiritual qi where everyone was. If it was Qian Xingjin's place, everyone would have noticed the difference as soon as they rushed over. Since there was no difference, of course, the atmosphere was the same. Sensing the change, the Qian family grew even more enraged, feeling like their lungs were about to explode. They were so preoccupied with their anger that they did not realize that the spiritual qi had recovered. Zhang Wufei frowned as he looked at Qian Xingjin. Leader Qian, why did you? He sighed and shook his head. His actions were clearly saying that Qian Xingjin was the one who had caused trouble. This was not right. Qian Xingjin almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Suppressing it with great effort, he asked, "What about the food?" Hu Xiaofan stepped forward and bowed respectfully as he said carefully, "Mistress, this is what happened. There is no difference in the food we send, it's all the same. It's probably because the Qian family is rich that they give a lot of rewards to their disciples each time, so the food is sent to the Qian family first, followed by the Li family and the Xikong family. We didn't expect Leader Qian and the rest to have a better appetite today, so the food wasn't enough. That's why there are so many changes." Ji Lingxi frowned. "Delivered?" "Yes, of course." "Really?" "Yes, we did." Hu Xiaofan took out a lunchbox. There was only an empty plate left inside. It was obvious that he had eaten everything cleanly. Hu Xiaofan said indignantly, "Please look, mistress. Even a dog can't eat it so cleanly." Qian Xingjin was dizzy as he hollered, "Brat! You've gone too far." Before his words echoed in the air, he was already about to charge forward. Ji Lingxi stood in front of Hu Xiaofan and shouted angrily, "What? You were so unforgiving and overbearing just now. Was it because you didn't have enough food? If you didn't have enough food, you could have just said it. Why did you have to beat around the bush and escalate the matter to such an extent? Now, you even want to bully the weak in front of so many people and deal with a child. To have such magnanimity in conduct, so what if your Qian clan is rich? Can you do whatever you want just because you're rich? If you want to make things difficult for my disciple, you'll have to go through me first. No matter how weak the residence of 9 Supremes is, we'll definitely support our disciple and fight the Qian family to the end." Seeing that the situation was getting more and more extreme, Zhang Wufei could not help but interject, "Everyone, calm down. This is a joyous day." Qian Xingjin's eyes were spitting fire as he glared at Ji Lingxi and said, "Madam Yun, you're twisting the truth like this. Are you sure you want to humiliate the Qian family?" Ji Lingxi's gaze was cold. "I think it's the Qian family who's up to no good on the residence of 9 Supremes' joyous day." Qian Xingjin's breathing sounded like bellows. Feeling the unfriendly gazes from all around, it was obvious that everyone present felt that they were in the wrong. Now that the situation had changed, in the eyes of others, they were the ones who were arrogant and domineering, bullying the Qian family's junior disciple and being unreasonable, oppressing them with their power and causing trouble on the Qian family's joyous day. They were truly unreasonable and unreasonable. Perhaps only the Li family knew that they were the ones who were being bullied. Yun Xiaoxin murmured pitifully, "Mistress, I feel wronged. When the Qian family came to the residence of 9 Supremes, we welcomed them as distinguished guests and arranged for them to stay in such an excellent place where even the disciples don't have the chance to cultivate. We were treated with good food and drinks, but even though we're young and we've been neglectful, you could have just told us. It's just a little food, and I'll bring it over. But, how did things turn out like this? I really don't know why." Yun Xiaoxin was a lovely girl, like a pearl. Now, the little girl was about to burst into tears with a wronged look on her face. The few palace masters felt sorry for her and wished they could pat her head to comfort her. They were even more dissatisfied with the Qian family. Could it be that the Qian family had taken a fancy to the residence of 9 Supremes' disciples' beauty? Ji Lingxi took a deep breath and said, "Don't worry, Xiaoxin. Mistress will stand up for you in this matter. No one will wrong you." She turned to look at Zhang Wufei and said, "Hall Master Zhang, I'm sure all of you have seen this matter clearly. We are all guests, and I really don't know what to do. I've also lost control of this matter, understand? Understand? What do we understand? The rest of the 3 halls, 3 talents and 5 directions were still confused. This matter seemed to be clear to them, but the Qian family conducted themselves in the ways of merchants. They were most particular about harmony bringing wealth. How could they be so ignorant? They were such a large family, and the family leader was here in person. It was impossible for them to be so inconsiderate and allow the situation to escalate to such an extreme. Unexpectedly, Zhang Wufei had already said readily, "Don't worry, Madame Yun. I've seen everything from the beginning to the end." The Qian family has indeed gone overboard. However, I hope that Madame Yun can be magnanimous and not be too calculative. After all, it's your residence's big day. It won't be good for anyone to make a fuss. I'll make the decision and ask clan leader Qian to apologize to you. Do you think we'll let this matter go? If it goes on, all the palace masters are still here. It'll be bad if something happens. What do you say, clan leader Qian? Others aside, Zhang Wufei would definitely stand on the residents of 9 Supreme side. Among all of them, he was the only one who understood Yun Yang's terror the best, not to mention that he was still carrying a huge debt. His mission today was to be a good supporting character. He had to do it well. Once Zhang Wufei spoke, the other hall masters nodded in agreement. Hall Master Zhang Wufei is right, Hall Master Zhang. He's reasonable. It's just a small matter, clan leader Qian can just apologize and let it go. Let's drink tea and play chess later. The other hall masters and divine lords were persuading him kindly. To them, the matter was indeed not a big deal. Was it not something that could be resolved with just a word? Besides, if Zhang Wufei had seen it, it meant that they had seen it as well. Was there a need for verification? It was not something that could threaten their lives. It was better to just let it go. How could they not give Zhang Wufei face? Ji Lingxi's expression turned indifferent. Since Hall Master Zhang has spoken, I have no other opinions. It's up to clan leader Qian now. Qian Xingjin looked at Zhang Wufei with grief and indignation. What did he mean by, "I've seen everything from the beginning to the end"? May I ask, where did you see it from the beginning to the end? Where did this come from? Our Qian family has obviously been bullied by the residents of 9 Supremes from the beginning to the end, but we still have to apologize to them? Zhang Wufei laughed heartily and told Qian Xingjin, clan leader Qian, it's just a small matter. Isn't it just an apology? Just bend over, nod, and bow. Isn't it just an apology? It's easy for you to say. Qian Xingjin's face was flushed. All the hall masters and holy lords were looking at him amiably. Clearly, they were waiting for him to apologize to them and resolve this unforeseen event. But I really have to apologize, don't I? How can I open my mouth? If I really make a loss, I'll... Qian Xingjin stood there stiffly, not speaking nor moving. The grievance in his heart had reached its peak. He did not even dare to speak, afraid that he would spit blood the moment he opened his mouth. There was still no movement for a long time. This stalemate seemed to have put Zhang Wufei in an awkward position. The smile on Zhang Wufei's face gradually froze, his gaze turning cold. Even the other hall masters and divine lords had a strange expression on their faces. What was wrong with clan leader Qian? Was he not giving them face? The Sacred Heart Palace Lord was here to smooth things over, and a group of hall masters and divine lords were helping to smooth things over, and he was not even willing to give them this little bit of face? Did he want to fly away or fly into the sky? Did he not want to live in this bound of universe anymore? Zhang Wufei's face was stiff as he forced a smile and said darkly, clan leader Qian, are you really not going to give us this face? Even if my face isn't enough, but the faces of so many old brothers are here. Could it be that this isn't enough? Qian Xingjin remained standing stiffly, his face turning increasingly pale, but he still did not speak or move. Zhang Wufei's expression darkened, his facial muscles twitching as a murderous glint flashed in his eyes. You really dare not give us face? F*ck me, so awesome. Even the gazes of the other temple masters and sacred lords started to turn ugly. Just as Jean Wufei had said, it was no longer just a matter between the residents of 9 Supremes and the Qian family. There were so many of us, so many super forces here to smooth things over for you. Everyone was talking to you with a smile. Was this not enough face? Chapter 1407. In just a short moment, the atmosphere became unprecedentedly stuffy, with a hint of gunpowder brewing. Qian Xingjin knew very well that he had fallen into a trap today. He had lost control of his emotions, but it was impossible for him to suppress his rising anger. For a moment, he couldn't even speak, and could only take a deep breath. One of the elders of the Qian clan saw that the situation wasn't good, and he hurriedly stood out and smiled apologetically. Ha! Hall Master Jean, today's matter is really a small matter. It's indeed our fault, shut up. Jean Wufei, Saint Origin Palace Master, and Dongfang Sacred Lord bellowed together. Do you have the right to speak? The faces of all the hall masters and sacred lords turned livid. Today was really a big loss of face. Qian clan, you're really awesome. Even with so many of us combined, it's still not enough. What do you want? Although wealth could make one a god, and wealth could rival a country, this saying did not apply to the people who stood at the pinnacle of the bound of universe. Jean Wufei stared at the elder of the Qian clan, his eyes cold as he said word by word, this has nothing to do with you. Today, I just want to ask clan leader Qian, is my face enough? Are you giving it to me or not? Yu Wubian, Lord of Saint Origin Palace sneered. What's the point of asking? If it's not enough, what is our face worth? They have already made it clear that they don't want to give it to us, and you still want to ask? Lu Changfeng, Lord of Saint Origin Palace, said with a sullen face, we are indeed asking to be humiliated. We are too self-righteous. The weight of these 2 sentences had already reached the extreme. The faces of the others were equally sullen, as if they were about to kill someone. The 5 elders of the Qian clan looked at their clan master anxiously, their hearts thumping wildly. Clan master. We know you are wronged. Who doesn't feel wronged? But now, look at the situation, we really can't hold on any longer, it is our Qian clan's fault. Thank you, Madam Yun, for being magnanimous and forgiving. And the few young brothers of the residents of 9 Supremes, please don't take it to heart. Don't let your Dao heart be clouded. Qian Xingjin finally spoke. He finally suppressed his exploding anger and took a deep breath. His expression turned sincere and ashamed as he said, I'm sorry, Hall Master Jean, Hall Master Yu. Just now, it was the devil in my heart that caused me to hold it in. The root of this matter is that I thought too highly of myself and thought that I was infallible. I hereby apologize to all of you, Hall Masters. As he spoke, he sincerely bowed to the ground and did not get up for a long time. He held his breath. This answer, as well as this deep bow that practically threw away his dignity, immediately caused many people's expressions to soften. That made sense, albeit barely. Everyone knew that no matter how much self-restraint one had, once one's anger was completely ignited, they would never be able to calm down. But Jean Wufei snorted, his expression still ugly. Qian family head's cultivation level is really high. My inner demon has been born, and I'm holding it in, he, with a cold sneer, he flicked his sleeves and left without another word. Yu Wubian and Lu Changfeng's faces were dark as well, turning to leave without a word. As for the other holy lords and hall masters, even though their expressions were slightly better, Jean Wufei's words still made them extremely displeased. With Qian Xingjin's cultivation base, you're holding it in? Inner demon has been born? Who are you trying to fool? A few of them even forced a smile and excused themselves to smooth over the situation. Most of the others merely grimaced stiffly and turned to leave without another word. From afar, Ji Lingxi's voice could still be heard lecturing her disciples. Those who come are guests, and the guests should be respected. Don't think that the residence of 9 Supremes has ascended to the heavens in a single bound. The world is vast. If you dare to be the slightest bit negligent, I'll punish you myself. A few disciples replied respectfully, yes, we won't dare to do it again. Then, Lingxi's voice could be heard again. Clan head Qian. I'm sorry, my attitude just now was also problematic. I hereby apologize to you, please don't take it to heart. With that, Lingxi left with her disciples. The few hall masters and holy lords who were still paying attention to the situation immediately understood what was right and wrong. Look at Madame Yun, how considerate she was. When he compared the Qian clan and the Qian clan, he felt that the Qian clan was truly too excessive. You're just a shameless thing. The few hall masters came to the same conclusion in their hearts. During the battle earlier, he had already taken the initiative to use his own face to talk, but this patriarch of the Qian clan was actually still able to stand firm and not move. Do you think that a single bow from you can match the face of a hall master? Moreover, there was more than one hall master who had spoken just now. Watching Lingxi leave, Qian Xingjin turned around numbly and walked in. He had only taken 2 steps when he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned as white as wax, and he fell to the ground like a collapsing mountain. In the eyes of those who were present today, the beginning and the end of this matter was but a very, very small matter. The Qian family head of the Qian family, Qian Xingjin, refused to admit his mistake and humiliated a few hall masters in front of everyone. This was a big deal, a classic example of losing a big deal for a small one. In spite of this, the Qian family, one of the top 3 aristocratic families in the world, was almost suffocated to death. Not only did Qian Xingjin, the Qian family head, vomit blood, but even the 5 great elders felt a strong desire to go berserk. They wanted to howl into the sky, to kill, and even to commit suicide. This was too much of a bully. We are the top financial family in the world. Since when have we been bullied like this? As Qian Xingjin spat out a mouthful of blood, he quickly regained his senses, but he was already suffering from internal injuries. He sucked in a deep breath and sat on the chair, panting with a weary expression. His gaze was vicious, and after a long time, he said, the residents of 9 Supremes would never make the Qian family an enemy for no reason. There must be a reason for this. Could it be because of Qian Duo? As soon as Qian Xingjin said that, the other elders shuddered, their expressions blank. Qian Duo? It was a name that had a very weak presence, and to them, it was a very long time ago. Well, it did not seem to be a very long time ago. About 100 years ago, the family produced a legitimate son of the head of the family who was good at business but had no talent in cultivation. Because of a prophecy that had been passed down for many years, the patriarch of the family at that time stubbornly made the good-for-nothing successor as the head of the family, and even did not hesitate to suppress the talented disciples in the family for this. Later, although the family set things right and expelled all the good-for-nothing lineal descendants without much damage, they had, after all, gotten rid of the former head of the family's lineal descendants. Therefore, everyone had a good impression of it. Of course, no one took it too seriously, thinking that it was a moment of confusion on the part of the patriarch. The main reason was that all the descendants of that branch were mediocre cultivators, and there was no room for them to be taken seriously. As for Qian Duo, who had slipped through the net, everyone had an impression of him. He seemed to be a good-for-nothing who had cultivated for nearly 20 years but was only a honor. Not to mention mediocre, even if he was the best of the best, he could still stir up some trouble after being stripped of the celestial luck banner and removed from the Qian family. The influence of the Qian family's upper echelons on Qian Duo and even his parents and ancestors was probably like a person who accidentally stepped on an ant's nest while walking and killed most of the ants, but there were still a few lucky enough to escape. However, would a person need to worry about the ant's revenge? It was simply ridiculous. Now, however, everyone was surprised to see the return of that ant. Moreover, the humiliation that his clan had suffered today was very likely because of that ant. That was another matter altogether. When we go back, we'll completely slaughter that branch. Qian Xingjin rubbed his brows tiredly and said, let them carry out the task, and then let the bandits destroy them. He breathed a sigh of relief, an indescribable viciousness in his eyes. Otherwise, our thoughts will not be smooth. One of the elders hesitated for a moment and said, "It may not necessarily be because of Qian Duoduo." Qian Xingjin said faintly, "There can't be any other reason. Our Qian family is not a small family, no matter what. The residence of 9 Supremes reuniting ceremony is an important moment. If there is no major reason, they will never offend the main family like this. Only Qian Duoduo, as the major domo of the residence of 9 Supremes, has a high position and great power, and has a great grudge against the Qian family. Pass down the order. Get rid of the group of good-for-nothings as soon as possible, then arrange for people to kill Qian Duoduo. Although the residence of 9 Supremes is powerful, it has just been established, after all, and its foundation is limited. As long as the family closes its doors as soon as possible and stays out of the world for a period of time, this grudge will naturally fade away. During this period of time, we must try our best to build a good relationship with the divine lords of the various palaces." Qian Xingjin said faintly, "No matter what, we are the gold celestial luck banners. No one will want to fight us to the death. Even the residents of 9 Supremes will, at most, use such means to annoy us. It's not to the extent of fighting us to the death." He smiled faintly and said, "Although it's disgusting today, it's also a reminder. Don't take it to heart. The key person is only Qian Duoduo. As long as this nail is removed, we can take the initiative to repair our relationship with the residents of 9 Supremes and let them have more profits. In this world, there is nothing that can't be compensated by profit. Although the residents of 9 Supremes can have a conflict with us for Qian Duoduo now, in the future, they will never pester us to the end because of a dead man. There are no eternal friends in this world, only eternal interests. Perhaps, the residents of 9 Supremes can even become our best ally in the future. It all depends on what we do. Today's unforeseen event happened because it happened right in front of us. I wasn't prepared at all, and even I lost my composure. But being sullen like this might not be a bad thing. Let's recognize the present and understand the present." Qian Xingjin exhaled with a smile and said, "Today, we've fallen into a trap. Now that I think about it, it's because I'm not mellow enough. I couldn't swallow my anger at that time, and now I've become the butt of gossip. I really shouldn't have." As he spoke, his thoughts became clearer and clearer. "Clan leader is really magnanimous, and your vision is like a torch. I'm impressed." Admiration and praise appeared on the faces of the 5 elders at the same time. This was the magnanimity of the head of a clan. As they spoke, the spiritual qi outside disappeared again. Obviously, the residents of 9 Supremes had made a move again. But now, in the eyes of the Qian family, this move seemed childish and childish. They were completely indifferent and did not take it seriously anymore. "We won't lose our temper, and we won't leave. If we leave in a fit of anger today, we'll really be the butt of gossip and fall into the pit." There was still no food. Not only was there no food at night, but there was also no food in the morning. However, the Qian family had already recovered their composure and remained calm. No one even came out to walk around. There was nothing to walk around, and if they really walked out rashly, they might be accused of trespassing into the sex-forbidden area. The Qian family would never fall for the same trick a second time. Perhaps to the other martial arts sects, your tricks are an irreconcilable grudge, but to us, who are famous for being merchants, it's really not worth mentioning. Because to us, nothing is more important than profit. What's the big deal about face? How much money is it worth? As long as the situation was clear, the so-called humiliation was just a passing cloud, and they could just take it indifferently. This Qian family is really tolerant. Yun Xiuxin was a little dejected. "We've painstakingly planned so many plans, but we've only succeeded once." Sun Mingxiu, who was sitting aside, said with a faint smile, "We're already lucky to have succeeded once. Based on my understanding of the Qian family, even the first time shouldn't have succeeded. It's just that mistress didn't let her guard down and forced them to the edge of the cliff." Coupled with the unexpected cooperation of Temple Master Jean, we managed to trick the Qian family once. Your tricks are just to make people laugh, it's nothing much. It was the appearance of Mistress that directly provoked the other party's anger, and it was Temple Master Jean's inverted words that really made Qian Xingjin explode in anger. Then, the sudden reconciliation and the sudden turn of the situation made him unable to calm down, and he froze there. Even if the speed of one sentence was too slow, it wouldn't have succeeded. Do you think it's as easy as you see? Even if it's a trap, it won't be so easy to set up an old aristocratic family that has been passed down for thousands of years like this. Moreover, our little trick is not even worth mentioning. For now, it's hard for us to make any progress in the remaining days of the residence of 9 Supremes. We'll have to wait until they leave before we talk about the rest. Yu Qingheng, Bai Yexing, and the others nodded silently. Senior brother Sun's analysis was spot on. Next, our first priority is still to cultivate and gain experience, said Sun Mingxiu. It's not impossible for us to bring down the Qian clan and avenge Uncle Master Qian on our own, but it's an extremely difficult task, said Sun Mingxiu. The Qian clan is the world's #1 plutocracy. As the saying goes, money can control ghosts, but it can also communicate with the gods. In this world, money is the strongest and most successful weapon. Let me say this solemnly, don't underestimate the other party just because they're a plutocracy. Once we really start to act, we don't know how many strong opponents we'll have to face inexplicably for the sake of money. I won't be surprised at all if we fail one by one and fall into someone's trap. Sun Mingxiu looked at Hu Xiaofan and Lu Changman. Especially the two of you. One is lawless, and the other is reckless. Both of you are the easiest to fall into someone's trap. If you're not strong enough and you're ambushed by an expert, there's only death waiting for you. Hu Xiaofan snorted indignantly, while Lu Changman twisted his neck to show that he was not convinced. Keep cultivating. Try to improve your strength as much as possible so that you can have more life-saving capital. Sun Mingxiu said a few words, and when he saw that there was nothing more to say, Yun Xiuxin, the eldest senior sister, announced that the meeting was adjourned. One had to say that although Yun Xiuxin was the eldest senior sister, she was an extremely lazy girl. Apart from cultivating, she did not care about anything related to the sect. Therefore, whenever the senior and junior brothers held a meeting, Yun Xiuxin was the organizer and the person who gave the notice. As for speaking, giving instructions, dealing with things, resolving disputes, arranging work, and so on, they were all done by Sun Mingxiu, Yu Qingheng, and other experienced and prudent people. She was the eldest senior sister, who held a high position in all the sects and clans, but Yun Xiuxin treated her as a mascot equivalent to an office director. This little girl was clearly a mere figurehead and had no real power, but she still enjoyed it. I don't care about power, but I'll fight whoever wants to snatch the position of the eldest senior sister. A few days ago, it was my daughter-in-law's birthday. I made a reservation at a restaurant, bought flowers, and a cake, and had a happy day. But today, she suddenly asked me, it seems that you didn't give me a birthday present? Oh, women's thoughts are so strange. Are those not considered gifts? I was so angry that I raised my leg and kicked wildly, only stopping when my knees hurt. Humph. I'll buy a keyboard tomorrow. Chapter 1408. Putting aside the residence of 9 Supremes' disciples' intention to target the Qian family, the residence of 9 Supremes had a few more days of free time. As the leader of the residence of 9 Supremes, Yun Yang naturally had to accompany the guests of the highest rank. However, he had only accompanied Dongfang Haoran and the others for half a morning on the first day before he fled as if his butt was on fire. There was no other reason other than that these old fellows were too ruthless. On the first night, Shiman Fafu, who was supposed to keep the secret to himself, had, for some reason, told Dongfang Haoran and Beigong Liuli about Yun Yang's brilliant idea, like he was presenting a treasure. The two palace lords' eyes turned green at once. How could they not be tempted? The scarcity of offspring had always been the common sorrow of strong cultivators. There were few exceptions. As long as a martial artist had cultivated to the level of immortal mystic, he would inevitably step into the stage of refining essence into chi. The essence was not enough for his own use, so there was no way he could use it elsewhere. It was also because of this that it was difficult to have children. As one cultivated to the level of saint, one was even more particular about having a flawless physical body, not allowing any leakage of one's spiritual energy. The mystical chi in one's body would circulate naturally, turning the innate chi of essence into one's own spiritual energy. Naturally, it was even more impossible for one to have children. In such a situation, one had to at least break through the level of saint and reach the level of starry sky to be able to control one's own spiritual chi as easily as one's own arm. This was the so-called 100% accuracy. However, when one had reached that level, not many would care about the matter of male and female children. Dongfang Haoran and the other old fellows were still far from that level. It was said that people of different generations were related to each other, but this saying only applied to ordinary families. To the pinnacle experts of this world who lived for tens of thousands of years, how many children and grandchildren did they have? Not to mention grandchildren, even if they had grandchildren 100 generations away, they would still have a big family. Why would they need to kiss? Therefore, the ones that parents were truly worried about were their own children. The reason why Dongfang Xingchen, Shimen Huanyu, and the rest of them were pampered to the point of being out of control and doing things without the slightest scruple, was because, when they were already peak experts, they would suddenly win the lottery due to being drunk, or for some other reason. Getting a son by accident was the main reason. However, Yin Yang's solution was to control the origin of life force, which had always been an accident and a possibility, and turn it into a controllable action. I don't intend to force you. Just the same amount will do. Dongfang Haoran's hawk-like eyes stared at Yun Yang. Even that old thief Shimen Fengfu has 10, how can I, your older brother Dongfang, have less than 10? This old man also only needs 10. Beigong Liuli said fiercely, this old man is known for his fiendish ways. This time, I'll go for the fiendish way. If I lose even half, I might have to fight you. All right. You're trying to kidnap me out of friendship and threaten me with force. I can't afford to offend you, so I'll just give in, all right? The two villains cornered Yun Yang in a corner. No matter how wise Yun Yang was, he was helpless against these two men who had their own opinions and would not be swayed by external factors. Sighing helplessly, he could only grit his teeth and give them 10 strips each. With the treasures in their hands, the two palace lords left in satisfaction. They abandoned a certain someone like an old shoe, as if they were throwing them away after using them. Nighttime. Midnight. Dongfang Haoran quietly entered Yun Yang's room. Quickly, give me 10 more strips. What? Yun Yang's fox face grew long as his eyes widened in utter disbelief. What kind of relationship do I have with you, old brother? How can I be treated the same as these two? Dongfang Haoran's words were righteous. It was as if it was not enough to show his status without additional treatment. Yin Yang argued with reason and tried his best with his tongue. However, Dongfang Haoran saw that he could not win with words, so he directly threatened him with force. Sect leader Yun, who was easily captured, lowered his head and agreed to the humiliating terms, giving up another 10 strips. Dongfang Haoran left in satisfaction. Yin Yang cursed for a long time to vent his anger. Damn old thing, I'm lucky that my wife isn't by my side and that I can't eat them now. If this old thing barged in, wouldn't it be? Yin Yang cursed, but he was helpless. This was the most direct portrayal of the situation being stronger than the person, but one's strength was inferior. The next day, Yin Yang came to the small yard whereby Bingxian stayed. Compared to other places, this place was much livelier. The 5 whiteys were hopping around, unusually lively. The big black bear from the beast trainer's sect was lying lazily under a big tree, its body flickering and emitting a strange light. Its form was that of a big black bear for a moment, then a brawny man for a moment. It kept changing back and forth, its 2 large eyes were filled with innocence and depression. What's wrong with him? Yun-yang asked curiously. I don't know how he cultivated the shape-shifting technique. He's never been able to achieve it. He's tried for a long time, but he's still in a deadlock between the two forms. He can't maintain a fixed form, and can only maintain the form of a black bear. Bai Bingxian frowned. He's already a third-level Supreme Saint but still can't shape-shift completely. How embarrassing. Yun-yang was stunned when he heard Bai Bingxian's explanation. He had never heard of such a thing. When it came to the shape-shifting of mystical beasts, Yun-yang did have the right to speak. The days he had stayed in Tian-Fa Holy Land were not for nothing. The mystical beasts in Tian-Fa Holy Land could try shape-shifting once they reached the level of Supreme. Venerable and Saint were even in their human form. If one did not know them well, one would not be able to tell that something was amiss. Why was this person from the residence of 9 Supremes still unable to shape-shift completely even though he had already reached the level of Supreme? What was going on? Ignoring the 5 whiteys that were jumping around him, Yun-yang sent Whitey 2 to find the Beast Kings. Not long after, Bear King arrived and was shocked when he saw the state of the black bear. A black bear that could not shape-shift even after reaching the level of Supreme Saint was unheard of, even in Tian-Fa Holy Land. Bear King approached the black bear and touched it twice, thinking for a long time. After a while, he scratched his head and said in a seemingly enlightened manner, I know where this fellow's problem lies. His cultivation method is fundamentally wrong. Of course, he can't shape-shift completely. The black bear's eyes widened in confusion as he casually recounted his origins. Beast Trainer Sect? Bear King was furious. You've been framed by that sect. One of your beast souls has been destroyed. Of course, you can't shape-shift successfully. Yun-yang was puzzled and asked hurriedly. When Beast Trainer Sect domesticates mystical beasts, they have to eliminate the beast's wild nature to prevent it from devouring its master. Therefore, at the beginning of taming the beast, they use a unique mystic art to extract a part of the target beast's soul and refine it. Only then can the target beast be obedient. However, his situation is different. The person who extracted his soul and refined it has long passed away. He said that the lost part of his soul is destined to never be found. He has no hope of shape-shifting. Bear King's face was full of sorrow and resentment. Mystical beasts had been guarding the holy land of Tian-Fa for countless years, constantly fighting against the demon race and guarding the door for the bound of universe humans. However, on the other side of the bound of universe, there were countless humans who kept mystical beasts as pets, tools of war, slaves, or mounts. When had there ever been true fairness in this world? Hearing Bear King's explanation and his assertion that he had no hope of shape-shifting in this lifetime, the black bear looked hopeless. Ever since he came to the residence of 9 Supremes, his cultivation base had been improving by leaps and bounds. The black bear was naturally elated. However, no matter how much his cultivation base had broken through and reached an unusually high level, he had never been able to shape-shift. This had long puzzled him. Only now did he finally understand. Yin-yang frowned and asked, Is there really no other way? Bear King sighed. Unless he can break through to the saint level. When he reaches the saint level, he can naturally reshape his soul. At that time, he can shapeshift however he wants without any constraints. However, his soul is incomplete, so the difficulty of breaking through to the saint level is many times more difficult than ordinary people. The prospects are not optimistic. As soon as he said this, the despair on the black bear's face intensified, almost as if he had nothing left to live for. Yin-yang, on the other hand, was relieved. He laughed and said, The residence of 9 Supremes does not lack spiritual chi and treasures of heaven and earth. Old Black, just concentrate on your cultivation. No matter what you lack in terms of cultivation resources, I'll make up for it. Cultivating to the saint level may not be an unreachable thing. Don't worry, I have full confidence in making you a saint. Are you serious? Not only the black bear, but even Bear King's eyes were shining. Yin-yang laughed. Facts speak louder than words. Haven't you all seen the current situation of the residents of 9 Supremes? Especially me, Do you only care about whether my cultivation speed is fast or not? After saying this, he did not speak anymore, only letting the black bear cultivate in peace and work hard. However, the symbolic meaning of this sentence was enough. The cultivation atmosphere of the residence of 9 Supremes might not be unique in this world, but it was at least the best. Furthermore, how long had it been since Yunyang entered the Tao? At the very most, it had only been 12 to 20 years. If he could get Yunyang's guidance, his future would not only be promising, it would be extremely promising and limitless. The black bear cheered, his previous dejected look vanishing as he went back to his cave to cultivate like a gust of wind. Bear King, on the other hand, followed behind Yunyang with eyes full of admiration, flashing a flattering smile from time to time. He had personally taken Brother Yun's medicine before. It was truly miraculous. We're on the same side, there's no need to be polite. If there's any good medicine, I'll send it to you specially, without a second word. Patting Bear King's shoulder and making a promise, Bear King left in satisfaction. I've gained a lot from my trip to the demon race this time. Not only did I see His Majesty the 9 Lives Cat, but I also helped him escape. Only Yunyang and Bai Bingshuan's clansmen were left. Yunyang did not keep them in suspense anymore and went straight to the point. When Bai Bingxian and her clansmen heard such great news, they sat up straight at once, the light in their eyes startling Yunyang. Facing such longing gazes, Yunyang quickly recounted the whole process in detail. When she heard that not only had the 9 Lives Cat escaped, but he had also begun to regroup with the help of Cat Lady and the others, preparing to counterattack the demon court, Bai Bingxian was already sobbing. His Majesty the 9 Lives Cat has become my sworn brother, so, you can stay here with peace of mind in the future. One day, when we go back and reunite, the 9 Lives Cat clan will be glorious again. Yunyang sighed softly. That was what he said. However, if the 9 Lives Cat failed to counterattack the demon court, the best outcome for Bai Bingxian and the others was to stay in the residence of 9 Supremes. Yunyang took out the jade pendant of the 9 Lives Cat ancestor and let Bai Bingxian and the others worship it. Then, he took out the secret cultivation method of the cat clan that the 9 Lives Cat had asked him to bring and handed it to Bai Bingxian. Yunyang then got up and left. However, the eyes of Bai Bingxian and the others behind him were bright. After Yunyang left, all the cats did not even close their eyes for a few days. The unprecedented excitement that felt like they were about to explode made them sleepless all night. Due to the change, the Whiteys also gained some luck. They followed Bai Bingxian to cultivate the top-notch secret method of the cat clan. Naturally, their abilities grew rapidly day by day. Most of the time, they specialized in their respective professions. Only then could their progress be unstoppable and unstoppable. Other than the 5 Whiteys, Gigi was also released by Yunyang. This ugly bird that was rarely seen in history was still staring at a scaly head. More than half of the feathers on its body had grown out, but its head was still bald. There were only 3 hairs on the top of its head that glowed like flames. It was the only bright spot on its image. However, Gigi's bright spot was not just this. Other than moving faster than before, coming and going like lightning, it was almost traceless and traceless. It also had the superior ability to shatter the void and travel thousands of miles in an instant. With this astonishing speed, Gigi had the absolute upper hand in the battle against the Whiteys. Even when a few Whiteys joined forces to attack it, it was still not at a disadvantage. This was because the Whiteys had received systematic learning and their abilities had increased greatly. In addition, there was the innate tacit understanding of their bloodline. If Gigi could make up for its lack of combat experience, the attacking power it could unleash would be difficult for the Whiteys to resist even if they joined forces. When it was cornered, it could spit a ball of flame from its mouth and burn everything, including heaven and earth. In Yin Yang's opinion, Gigi's combat power was top-notch even in the entire bound of universe. The Whiteys' individual abilities were at least at the pinnacle of Supreme Saint. The fact that Gigi could fight them alone and not be at a disadvantage was already a clear indication of its ability. In addition, Gigi's appearance meant that it was not fully developed yet. This knowledge made Yun Yang feel that this little fellow was extraordinary. Whether it was its origin, ability, foundation, or potential, it was extraordinary. In view of this, it was better to let this little fellow experience more battles, no matter how difficult it was to improve by staying in the deific consciousness space. Otherwise, Gigi, who lacked combat power, would inevitably be at a disadvantage in a real battle. Combat power did not equate to actual combat results. This had been proven in countless wars. However, Gigi's appearance had thrown the residents of 9 Supremes into chaos. Chapter 1409. First of all, Gigi was just too ugly. It was so ugly that it could shock the world. The feathers on its body were not bad, but the moment everyone looked at it, all they saw was its bald head and neck, nothing else. Secondly, Gigi was not only ugly, it was arrogant. Other than Yun Yang, its eyes were slanted at everyone it looked at, its face full of disdain. Not only humans, but other mystical beasts were not even worthy of its attention. Only the few whiteys could catch its attention. That was because they had been playmates since they were young. Otherwise, even the whiteys would not be able to maintain their pride. Its arrogant aura was clearly saying, "You lot think you're worthy of playing with me? Who am I? What are you lot? Humph." How could such an attitude, coupled with its appearance, not be detestable? Moreover, this fellow had relied on the speed of his movement skill to scurry everywhere, fully aware that the residence of 9 Supremes was his own backyard. The reason why the residence of 9 Supremes was said to be its backyard was because, in Yun Yang's opinion, this fellow had treated the entire heaven and earth as its private property. The residence of 9 Supremes was its most private property, so it cherished it and would not destroy it. Noon. The beast kings of Tian Fa Holy Land were having their meal. Compared to other places, the amount of food these fellows ate could only be described as terrifying. For example, a person would be full after eating 2 steamed buns. However, these fellows ate 20 each, and it was only an appetizer. Therefore, the food provided to them was not only huge, but the taste was exceptionally rich. With their status as beast kings, they never lacked food. However, the food provided by the residents of 9 Supremes this time was not only filled with spiritual ingredients, but was also meticulously prepared. Naturally, they were even more elated, enjoying themselves so much that they did not want to go home. However, following the sound of rushing wind, an unbelievably ugly bird hurriedly flew in and landed on the table with an air of arrogance. It seemed to be pretending to be reserved as it walked a few steps on the food. Its neck tilted to the side and snatched a piece of snow spirit chicken from the Eagle King's mouth. It pecked at it with disdain and threw away the part that the Eagle King had bitten off. Then, it stretched its neck and swallowed the rest of the chicken. Then, in the blink of an eye, he opened his mouth and spat out a huge pile of chicken bones. There wasn't even a shred of meat left on them. After that, he looked at the bones with a look of disdain. He looked at the Eagle King with an extremely disdainful gaze, as if to say, "There are so many bones, and you still want to eat them? How tasteless." All the beast kings at the scene were stunned by this sudden turn of events. Looking at this uninvited bird, he was dumbfounded, not knowing what to do. Damn it. Even if we eat fish, we can't eat so fast, can we? What kind of bird is this? Just from the way he ate, he was already stronger than many people, able to do what others couldn't. GG. GG. GG stared at the Eagle King with its round eyes, pointing at the basin full of snow spirit chickens with its claws. Can't you have some eyesight? Hurry up and bring this daddy another one. Then, it pointed at the bones and said, "While you're at it, remove all the bones for this daddy." The Eagle King stared at this fellow for a long time and suddenly felt a wave of anger. Damn it, this daddy here is the king of the eagles. Who doesn't respect me 30% and fear me 70%? Why did a bald bird suddenly appear and actually want this daddy to serve him chicken? Does he think this king is a slave? He opened his hand and grabbed towards the Eagle King as he scolded, "Where did this stupid bird come from? Gigi was enraged, and with a twist of its neck, its beak had already landed on the Eagle King's hand. With a "pu" sound, a transparent bloody hole appeared in front of its eyes and fresh blood flowed out. The Eagle King let out a low grunt. This sudden turn of events was far beyond the expectations of all the Beast Kings present, causing them to be dumbfounded. In the beginning, everyone had planned to watch the show. None of these Beast Kings had given their food away for free, so they had instantly guessed that this slow bird was most likely a certain bird from the residence of 9 Supremes. They were all gloating to see how the Eagle King was going to deal with this, but they did not really take this bird seriously. Even when they saw the bird's quick reflexes, they did not think much of it. After all, in the face of an absolute difference in strength, even if the bird reacted in time, the so-called counterattack was nothing more than an ant trying to shake a tree. However, who could actually touch it? Instead, it was the Eagle King who had suffered a great loss. Was this an ant trying to shake a tree? What level was the Eagle King's cultivation base? Even if there was a possibility of being caught off guard, with the Eagle King's strength, even if he did not circulate his cultivation and just lay there, allowing a few Saint Emperors and beginner Saint Venerables to attack him as they pleased, even with the help of divine weapons, they might not be able to cause any damage. But it was such a strong physique that with a turn of its head and a peck from this bird, the bird had actually pecked through the Eagle King's hand. If you had not seen it with your own eyes, would you have believed it? What was this bird's beak made of? How could it be so domineering? The Eagle King's heart was in agony as he flew into a rage. His other hand channeled his cultivation base and clawed downwards. The sound of wind and thunder reverberated in the air, its aura terrifying. However, Gigi wasn't afraid in the slightest. With a shrill cry, it flapped its wings, turned its head, and pecked at the Eagle King's hand. Right at the instant the Eagle King was about to grab it, Gigi casually swung its sharp beak, tore through space, and then vanished without a trace. All that was left in the air was a mocking cry, Gigi. There was a bloody hole in each of the Eagle King's hands. Blood dripped everywhere. All the Beast Kings looked at each other, their hearts filled with shock and confusion. What kind of bird was this? Was it not too impressive? Even if the Eagle King had been careless the first time and did not use much strength, it had used almost all of its strength the second time. How could it still be pecked through like that? Gigi returned to Yun Yang's room familiarly after making a big round. It stood on Yun Yang's shoulder and tidied its feathers with its beak. It looked as if nothing had happened. It had a bald head and a bald neck, its large eyes filled with arrogance. It was extremely ugly. What bird is this? Ji Lingxi frowned and said in disdain, "Why is it so ugly?" Gigi! Gigi cried angrily. "How dare you call me ugly?" With a swoosh, Gigi dashed out, charging out of inertia. "Even if you're my master's wife, I have to teach you a lesson." "No," Yin Yang only managed to shout once before he heard Ji Lingxi cry out in shock. Then, the red light that Yun Yang was exceptionally familiar with flashed. With a shriek, Ji Lingxi bounced back at a speed that was faster than the speed at which she had charged out. It landed in front of Yun Yang's chest with a loud thud. Then, it slid off Yun Yang like a pile of mud, its eyes lifeless as it cried out, "Gigi." There was no more movement after that. The creature had been domineering for the entire morning and had finally met its nemesis. It was a direct collision. Yun Yang, who was affected by the force as if he had been struck by a powerful blow, felt his vision darken as his blood and chi churned. He mustered the endless divine art to calm the impact. After a while, he focused his gaze and saw that at least 80 to 90% of Gigi's bones were broken, even its neck was broken. It looked like it was going to die soon. He could not help but chuckle humorlessly. "You really don't have eyes. How dare you provoke just about anyone? You've hit the wall now. I really owe you all." Despite his words, he was in a hurry to save Gigi. Although Gigi was definitely of extraordinary birth and had great potential, it depended on who it was compared to. Going head-on against Ji Lingxi's protective spiritual light was like throwing an egg against a rock, seeking its own death. Ji Lingxi looked at Ji in shock. What bird is this? So. She wanted to say, how can it be so fast? She wanted to say, so strong? Of course, it was strong. Up until now, no one had survived Ji Lingxi's protective divine light except for Yun Yang. There was no exception, even for Saint Lords. Now that this little bird had attacked at such a high speed, it had suffered the most direct counterattack. Yet, it had not perished on the spot. This was already a great opportunity. Perhaps it was because the bird's attack was too fast, but Ji Lingxi could still feel the pain despite the protective divine light's immediate counterattack. In the past, no matter who attacked it, it did not feel anything with the protection of the divine light. This rule had been broken by a little bird. Besides, it was obvious that the bird had not used its full strength. This was the main reason it had not died from the counterattack. It was obvious that it only wanted to teach it a lesson. What the F***ck was this? Yin Yang chuckled bitterly as he healed Ji. You've seen this fellow before, it's Xiao Qiu, the bird I took in the lower realm. Ji Lingxi was hit with a sudden realization. An ugly bird that's still a fledgling. Isn't it too ugly? Ji, who was on the ground, cried weakly. It had just been saved by Yun Yang's infusion of spiritual energy, and now it was being called ugly. Ji was even angrier. I hate it when people call me ugly. How am I ugly? I'm the most handsome. All right. You're only a bird. Where did your pride come from? It's fine to show off in front of others, but forget about it in front of my wife. You could easily lose your life, no, your bird's life. Yin Yang pointed his finger at Ji's head and scolded it helplessly. Ji cried weakly and defiantly. However, its beady eyes that were looking at Ji Lingxi were already shining with fear. This human is too strong, I can't beat him. Even Yun Yang did not have such an understanding towards him. Now you know what's good, don't you? Let's see if you still dare to show off. Yun Yang chided jokingly. Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu, on the other hand, were greatly interested in the bird as they gathered around it. What kind of bird is this? Ji Lingxi said in surprise, it's obviously not fully grown yet, but even if it's a phoenix, it might not be able to do this in its infancy. It's the first anomaly to withstand the counterattack of my divine light of defense and come out unscathed so far. Shangguan Lingxiu nodded in agreement. It had only begun to grow feathers now. This was not even past the limit of its infancy, yet it already possessed such terrifying abilities. If he really grew up, he would definitely become a sage. It was not impossible for him to reach the starry sky level. After all, the source of the divine light of defense was an unfathomable and immeasurable level. The two girls squatted in front of Ji, glancing at it from top to bottom and left to right. The more they looked at it, the more they liked it. Let me tell you, these people in front of you are all on the same side, people you can't afford to offend. If you lay a hand on your own people in the future, it's not that I won't forgive you, it's that you're digging your own grave. Yin Yang warned sternly. Then, he used his mental energy to intimidate the bird. Yin Yang realized that the bird's wild nature had yet to be tamed. It was fortunate that it had attacked Ji Lingxi this time and was repelled by the red light. What if it had attacked someone else? Wouldn't it have been killed on the spot? It would not do if he did not impose some rules on it. Ji shrunk its neck in fear. Yin Yang reprimanded it harshly for half a quarter of an hour. Ji lowered its head, flapped its wings, and lay on the ground with its neck tilted. It looked so miserable that it no longer dared to attack. Only then did Yin Yang stop. Stop pretending to be pitiful. If there's a next time, I'll break your wings and break your claws. I'll even pluck out the feathers on your head. Yin Yang was only halfway through his treatment when he started scolding the bird. Gigi looked extremely pathetic and pitiful. Ji Lingxi's heart softened as she said softly, "I'll take care of it. Let it know some rules." Yin Yang thought about it and said, "All right." He would not be at ease if he handed this bird over to someone else. Watching Ji Lingxi's outstretched hand, Gigi shrieked in terror. "No! Don't hand me over to this woman. It's too scary." Yin Yang ignored it and watched as Ji Lingxi picked up the little fellow and brought him away. As soon as Gigi left, countless people rushed into Yin Yang's room. Dong Qitian, Shi Wuchen, the Beast Kings, and even Yun Xiuxin and other disciples, as well as a few temple masters, all rushed in. "Where's that despicable bird?" Everyone shouted in unison, burning with rage. Yin Yang's eyes widened. What was going on? After asking around, he found out that this fellow had actually turned the residence of 9 Supremes upside down in the short 2 hours he had let it out. Luo Dajiang's treasured saber had a big hole pecked through it, and Yun Xiuxin and Qing Jiejia's skirts had a hole pecked through their butts. Now, the 2 female disciples were embarrassed, angry, and in pain, covering their butts in rage. Zhang Wufei's jade pendant had also been snatched away. Dong Qitian was cultivating at first. He had just taken out a mysterious ice-fire lotus and was about to swallow it to aid his cultivation when the fellow had snatched it away and eaten it. Infuriated, Dong Qitian gave chase at top speed. However, he was caught off guard by a certain bird's space-tearing ability. Not only did the bird manage to escape, it almost fell into the crack in the void. Shi Wuchen had taken out a pot of medicinal pills for his disciples, but before they could accept it, it had already been snatched away by a certain bird that had appeared out of nowhere. As for the Beast Kings, it was even more obvious. The Eagle King's bloodied hands were a clear indication of what had happened. For a moment, Yin Yang felt a headache coming on. Was this still a bird? It was clearly a troublemaker. Faced with the public's anger, Yin Yang showed a rare and shameful cowardice. He asked with a confused expression, "What bird? What are you talking about?" Zhang Wufei frowned. "Is that indescribably ugly bird not sect leader Yun's pet?" Yin Yang did not know whether to laugh or cry. "What are you talking about, Temple Master Zhang?" Yin Yang refused to admit it. It was better for him to feign ignorance and deal with the current situation first. In the end, the crowd could only disperse in confusion. Could it be that the bird was really not his pet? The Beast Kings were simple-minded, believing Yin Yang's denial. After all, Yin Yang held a special place in their hearts. They did not believe that he would fool them. In spite of this, Zhang Wufei and the rest were grumbling inwardly. As the saying goes, everything takes after its owner. The bird is like the person. That bird's behavior is extremely despicable and shameless. It's like Lord Supreme Cloud's twin. I don't believe that the bird has nothing to do with Yin Yang. There was nothing much to do today, so I was quietly drinking in a corner, but this bunch of bastards came looking for trouble. In a fit of rage, I carried a bottle of wine and went to 3 tables in a row. They were all drunk, but I didn't even bat an eyelid. If it wasn't for some bastard who insisted on drinking from my bottle, they wouldn't have realized that it was mineral water. I was beaten up, but it was worth it. Chapter 14:10. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. During these 3 days, it was peaceful on the surface, but undercurrents were surging and brewing. However, Dongfang Haoran and the other 3, who were not bothered by anything, were living a carefree life. With their status, it was naturally difficult for them to gather together. Now, in the residence of 9 Supremes, the 4 of them gathered together, drinking and chatting, expressing their happiness and worries. They drank for 3 days and 3 nights before their mood finally waned. In these short 3 days, the 4 of them felt as if they had finished talking about the things that they had been talking about for tens of thousands of years. They clearly had 1,000 words to say, but they could not say a single word. Even though they were still sitting together, they could only stare at each other. Most likely, they had nothing to say anymore. The feeling of being speechless was, of course, unpleasant, but the 4 holy sons of the Heaven Palace who came with them felt even more negative. It could be said that among the outsiders in the residence of 9 Supremes, the Qian family was the one who felt the most uncomfortable, followed by the 4 holy sons. These 4 people stayed in the residence of 9 Supremes. Of course, they were well treated, but they were extremely unhappy and uncomfortable, as if there was a knife hanging on their necks that could be chopped off at any time. Their palace lord was nearby, and it was the gathering of the 4 top experts in the world, but it still did not give them much sense of security. Lai Guangfeng, who had never had nightmares, had actually dreamt of his own senior and junior brothers being brutally beaten to a pulp by Yun Yang. He was so frightened that he could not stop screaming in his dream. He was utterly humiliated. Fortunately, these 3 days had finally passed. The disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes began to send out notices one by one. They reached all the hall masters and divine lords. The main peak of the residence of 9 Supremes began to gather again. Those who attended this time were the top figures in the entire bound of Yellow Continent. Obviously, the residence of 9 Supremes had follow-up plans, and today was the day it would begin. When Qian Xingjin arrived, he first greeted the 4 rulers respectfully. Then, starting from Zhang Wufei, he greeted them one by one, lowering his attitude. Even when he was treated coldly, Qian Xingjin's attitude did not change at all, remaining peaceful and comfortable. This clan leader Qian, who had been living a smooth life for many days, was angered by someone one day, causing him to commit a huge mistake. The situation had changed drastically. However, after he realized the mistake he had made, he immediately adjusted his mentality, and in the shortest amount of time, he displayed astonishing action. He did his best, humbled himself, and even tried his best to make up for it with a humble attitude. Even Yun Yang was touched when he saw it. If it wasn't for Qian Duo, I probably wouldn't have had the intention to kill this family leader Qian. I might even have cooperated. Yun Yang sighed softly and told Ji Lingxi telepathically. Ji Lingxi nodded faintly. This person is very rare. Yun Yang nodded and said, this person's state of mind is exceptional. You must know that the Qian family is one of the top 3 aristocratic families in the world, the possessor of the golden celestial luck banner. Their position is not below the other halls. After he became the clan leader, everything went smoothly for him. His position was high and powerful, and he looked down on the world. It goes without saying. It's also because of this superior mentality that he was angered by your shallow tricks and made the mistake. However, when he calmed down and regained his clarity of mind, he immediately abandoned his superior mentality and placed himself in the mud. He used all the ways he could to beg for the understanding of all parties. He knew that if these people held grudges, he would never be able to return to his original superior position. Just from this magnanimity and state of mind, he can already be considered a top-notch talent. Yun Yang watched as Qian Xingjin mingled with the hall masters and divine lords, smiling humbly at them and nodding occasionally to express his goodwill. He was neither servile nor overbearing as he participated in the countless exchanges of topics with a relatively humble attitude. He was still adept at what was said and did what was asked of him. Perhaps this relatively humble and neither servile nor overbearing attitude was very strange in the eyes of others, but here, Qian Xingjin displayed it incisively and vividly, causing one to gasp in amazement, and it was a spectacle. No matter what the topic was, I was able to participate in it. Then, I clearly showed that I was inferior to everyone here, but I still had the right to participate in it, absolutely. Even Zhang Wufei was transmitting his voice to Yun Yang. How did the Qian family offend you? Yun Yang was silent for a moment before replying, there's no turning back in this matter, but you can choose to stay out of it. The Qian family is working hard, but I must seek justice for the grudge between them and my brother. This was Yun Yang's attitude. Zhang Wufei sighed and said nothing more. This time, the venue of the meeting was specially chosen for the martial arts practice field. Everyone was sitting on a chair carved from amethyst. There was no distinction between the nobility or the lowly status. It was a grand and imposing scene. Only the seats of the 4 rulers were placed at the front. Although they stood out from the crowd, no one dared to comment. The curtains slowly opened. Appearing on the stage, Yin-yang first cupped his fists and bowed before saying, "I've abruptly asked all of you to stay because the residence of 9 Supremes has now improved to a new level. Because of this, Yin-yang has a presumptuous request. It's here." The 4 hall masters of the East Celestial Palace paled when they heard him. What was to come would come. Had the thing they feared the most finally come? Dongfang Haoran smiled and said, "The residence of 9 Supremes' great improvement is obvious to all. This is a good thing, a blessing for the bound of universe. Although the residence of 9 Supremes was founded not long ago, we've enjoyed the current glory due to various circumstances. We want to go one step further and seize the position of the gold-class celestial luck banner. Coincidentally, the 4 rulers are here. Please be our witnesses and preside over the ceremony of ascension and the ranking battle." Yin-yang said with a faint smile. Everyone already knew about this, and what was happening now was just a formality. With Yin-yang's cultivation base of a half-step saint, it would be inexcusable if the sect he founded could not get a share of the gold-class celestial luck banner. Moreover, the residence of 9 Supremes had more than one saint emperor after the reuniting ceremony a few days ago. Apart from Chu Yin-yang, there were other pinnacle 4th-grade saint emperors keeping watch. Their strength was unrivaled among all the sects with gold celestial luck banners. Dongfang Haoran and the others all smiled. Shimen Fanfu opened his mouth to help. This is truly a fortunate matter for mysterious yellow world. We are all here to witness this grand occasion, and we are happy to see it happen. No one questioned it, and the decision was made. Of course, the residence of 9 Supremes can go one step further, but we can't break the convention of ascension of the bound of yellow celestial luck banner. Everything must be done according to the old rule of ascension. The residence of 9 Supremes will first face the sacred Soul Palace, one of the 4 palaces. If we can't even get through this, there's no need to mention anything. Hall Master Guan, do you have anything to say? Dongfang Haoran turned and asked. Zhang Wufei roared excitedly, "Old Guan, fight it out with the residence of 9 Supremes. Let this junior know the strength of a gold-class celestial luck banner sect." The other 2 hall masters were equally fired up. "Old Guan, you can't be a coward. We can't lose the honor." "That's right. Fight to the end." Guanmai looked at Zhang Wufei and the other 2 hall masters as if he wanted to eat them alive. He had been colleagues for a long time, and he had long known that these 3 old men were not good people. Now, his understanding was even more thorough and profound. Are they encouraging me to defend my title? Or do they want to see me lose face? Get beaten up? Your father's cultivation base is only a first-tier beginner saint emperor. You want me to fight Yin-yang, a half-saint, to the end? Not to mention Yin-yang, even those saint emperors under Yin-yang. Although they were newly promoted, was he sure that he could defeat them? Once the residence of 9 Supremes challenge began, the outcome was already decided. It was certain that he would be utterly humiliated. After all, the residence of 9 Supremes now had 9 saint emperors. How was he going to defend his title? What was he going to do? Yin-yang, a half-saint, what was he going to do? And that old man who had appeared out of nowhere. No matter how he looked at it, he was more intimidating than some pinnacle saint emperors. Where did this fellow come from? In fact, not only Guanmai, but even Dongfang Haoran and the others' eyes lit up the moment Dong Qitian appeared. In spite of it, they had long made up their minds about Dong Qitian's existence. After all, it was this person's ascension that caused the gathering of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to be delayed for another hour during the residence of 9 Supremes reuniting ceremony. Hence, all the big bosses had to pay more attention. Yin-yang said with a smile, "Hall leader Guan, let's discuss the format and number of matches. What do you think?" Guanmai rolled his eyes and said, "Supreme Yun is too courteous. There's no need to discuss this." Yin-yang wore a puzzled look on his face. Guanmai took a breath and said straightforwardly, "The residence of 9 Supremes is powerful. Sacred Soul Palace admits that it's no match for them, so we admit defeat and withdraw from the gold celestial luck banners. We'll make way for Supreme Yun. Hearing Guan Mai's words, the other 3 hall masters immediately let loose a torrent of abuse. The entire hall was filled with curses, and the boos were even louder. Damn you, Guan Mai, you're too much. How could you admit defeat without even fighting? Where's your shame? Where's the dignity of the 4 hall leaders? We still want you to feel out the residents of 9 Supremes. If there's a chance, and Sacred Soul Palace wins 1 or 2 matches by luck, it may not affect the grand plan, or even the overall situation, but it's always good for us. Everyone has long determined that Sacred Soul Palace will lose, but if you can win a match, you'll block residents of 9 Supremes' way forward. The rules for the promotion of the Gold Celestial Luck banner were no different from those of other Celestial Luck banners. It was also possible to challenge continuously, but it had to be built on the basis of winning every match. As long as it's not a complete victory, we'll keep our position. There's no need to fight anymore. I didn't expect this bastard to admit defeat. King opened the door slightly and make way for us to move forward. Why can't you be more literary? Can you be any more melodramatic? Why don't you just say that you can fight them and don't fight me? Among them, Yu Wubian, the leader of Sacred Divine Palace, was particularly angry. After Sacred Soul Palace admitted defeat, it would be his turn next. Facing residents of 9 Supremes, whose combat power was complete and whose trump card had not been revealed. Seeing Yun Yang glance over, Yu Wubian sucked in a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and stomped his feet. Sacred Divine Palace admits defeat. He had already understood that most of today's incident was Zhang Wufei's doing. Why did he have to bring all his men here to see their strength? Now, it looked like he was asking for a beating. You, Zhang Wufei, want your father to help you block residents of 9 Supremes' way forward and reap the benefits? No way. If I go down a level, you'll go down a level too. You want to be alone? Dream on, wishful thinking. CK. Zhang Wufei cursed. Are all of you still men? You're admitting defeat without even fighting? Where's your shame? Where's your pride? Thanks to the 2 leaders of the other 2 halls, it's Sacred Heart Palace's turn next. I have a deep friendship with Hall Leader Zhan, and we've even gone through life and death together. I seem to have even saved Hall Leader Zhan's life once. I wonder how Hall Leader Zhan wants to fight? Zhang Wufei's eyes widened, speechless. Shameless. You've said in front of so many people that you've saved my life before. You've saved my life and you still want me to talk about how to fight? Let's not talk about anything else. As long as I say fight now, no matter who wins or loses, they will become a laughing stock tomorrow. This is how Zhang Wufei treats his savior. This person, you have to be careful before you save him. Don't save an ingrate, only to be devoured the next moment. This is only if Sacred Heart Palace wins. If Sacred Heart Palace loses in the end, the situation will be even worse. Zhang Wufei knows that he's no match for his savior, but he still wants to fight with his life on the line, and still loses in the end. This man is blinded by greed, utterly shameless and despicable. Do I still have the face to live? Zhang Wufei stuttered for a long time, unable to utter a single word. Yin Yang said, "What's wrong with Hall Leader? Could it be that Hall Leader has remembered the debt between us?" Zhang Wufei was even more dumbfounded and speechless. You're King threatening me like this, aren't you? If I don't admit defeat on the spot, you're going to ask me for the debt. How can you do this? Where's your dignity as the residents of 9 Supremes Hall Leader? Sacred Heart Palace admits defeat. Zhang Wufei pondered for a moment, gritting his teeth and glaring at Yun Yang, finally admitting defeat. Thank you, Hall Master Zhan, you're too kind. When we're done drinking later, we must spar with each other. We must invite the seniors from the Sacred Heart Palace. Let's have some fun together. Coincidentally, there are so many people here, I'm sure they'd all like to watch a good show. As soon as he said this, the crowd erupted into an unprecedented frenzy. Spar? That's a great idea. Zhang Wufei's gaze that was initially fixed on Yun Yang turned into a fawning one. He chuckled and said, "It's reasonable for Lord Supreme Cloud to want the palace-level celestial luck banner. There's no need for a spar, let's just drink until we're full. Lord Supreme Cloud has made a huge contribution to the bound of universe. I believe that anyone with a bit of conscience will not stand in front of Lord Supreme Cloud. I'm willing to open the Residence of Nine Supreme's door for Lord Supreme Cloud and make way for you to move forward. I'm so happy that I'm about to cry." Chapter 14:11. Yin Yang nodded and said, "Hall Master Zhan is indeed a man of honor. Thank you very much." Zhang Wufei wanted to cry but had no tears. "Am I not a man of honor? You're going to collect the debt immediately. I can't stand it." Guan Mai and Yu Wubian looked at each other, dumbfounded and speechless for a long time. This man is really unsightly. He has the mouth to talk about others, but he has no mouth to talk about himself. Face, it's just a matter of fate. That's all there is to it. Zhang Wufei was indeed an outstanding talent. However, there was always someone stronger than the strong, and the strong were stronger than the strong. Saint Origin Palace's Hall Master, Lu Changfeng, sighed softly and said, "Saint Origin Palace congratulates Lord Supreme Cloud for Residence of Nine Supremes becoming the chief disciple of the gold-grade celestial luck banner." The unspoken implication was that Saint Origin Palace had admitted defeat. To Lu Changfeng, this result did not really matter. Even if his Saint Origin Palace had 100,000 years of recuperation and continued to grow, it would still be difficult for it to have a chance to challenge the Eastern Celestial Palace. If so, why should he stop others? Not to mention that the defeat of this battle had long been decided. His sect was the only one left, so why should he be the villain? With Residence of Nine Supreme's ability, so what if they were stopped this time? They would still continue to challenge in a few years' time. He could stop them once, but could he stop them forever? It was better to be a good person and let them pass. Although it was not a timely help, it was still the icing on the cake. At this point in time, the icing on the cake was also good. Residence of Nine Supremes had advanced to the gold-grade celestial luck banner rank in just a few words, and it was the chief disciple. The results stunned everyone for a long time. The three aristocratic families, the 5 sacred lords, the 3 talents palace, the 4 hall masters, as well as the chosen ones and the beast kings, all looked at Yun Yang with a strange expression. Behind Yun Yang, Xiao Wui, Ping Zhanyue, Shi Wuchen, and the rest were overjoyed. If it were not for the fact that the guests were still present, they would have jumped up and cheered. The faces of the top 10 disciples were flushed as they tried their best to control their breathing to maintain a normal level, but from time to time, they had a subtle feeling that the more they tried to control their breathing, the more intense it became. In just a few moments, they were already short of breath and had lost their manners. Yun Xiuxin's beautiful hair was fluttering even though there was no wind. She was so excited that she was on the verge of exploding. "What hall?" Dongfang Haoran's expression did not change as he asked with a smile. "Let's call it, the Palace of Nine Supremes," Yun Yang answered. "All right, let's call it the Palace of Nine Supremes. I believe that this title means a lot to you." Dongfang Haoran naturally wouldn't make things difficult for them. He immediately said, "Now it's time for us to show our strength. Show us the celestial luck banners." The celestial luck banners of Sacred Heart Palace, Saint Origin Palace, Sacred God Palace, and Sacred Soul Palace appeared at the same time. The shadow of the amethyst celestial luck banner also appeared above Dongfang Haoran's head. The amethyst celestial luck banner swayed slowly as if it was moving with the wind, but it was already breathtaking and shocking. Then, Guan Mai, the master of Sacred Soul Palace, heaved a long sigh and took a step back. At the same time, the golden celestial luck banner with the word Sacred Soul on it trembled. Dongfang Haoran's amethyst celestial luck banner moved abruptly. In the blink of an eye, the purple celestial luck banner had already brushed past the Sacred Soul Palace's celestial luck banner. A dazzling golden light burst out, then turned into a brilliant silver. This meant that the gold celestial luck banner had been demoted to silver. The next moment, the aura of Guan Mai's cultivation base dropped a lot. Being closely related to the celestial luck banner had its pros and cons. The pros, such as Yun Yang's residence of 9 Supremes, could be combined, upgraded, and promoted. Once it succeeded, it would benefit everyone. But once it lost its position, like Guan Mai, its cultivation base would drop a lot. Then, all the former disciples of Sacred Soul Palace would be the same, no longer able to regain their former glory. It was precisely because of this that the demon race was working hard to find a way to deal with the human race's celestial luck banner. If they really found a way to destroy the celestial luck banner, it would be a catastrophe for the human race, the doomsday of the bound of universe. The Sacred Soul Palace's celestial luck banner dropped in an instant. The amethyst light of the amethyst celestial luck banner, wrapped in a ball of golden light, turned into the sky, and brushed past the residence of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banner. The silver celestial luck banner that belonged to the residence of 9 Supremes, which was initially only a faint smear of gold, suddenly turned golden when the purple celestial luck banner brushed past it. Then, it climbed a lot higher, all the way to the 9th heaven. Immediately, the golden light shone 90,000 miles, illuminating 3,000 miles, bringing color to the universe. The radiance was so bright that it illuminated the entire Xianhuang world. For thousands of miles, the skies were filled with a golden radiance. The words Palace of 9 Supremes seemed to be frozen in the sky, lingering for a long time. In just a moment, an endless spiritual qi storm seemed to be summoned from beyond the heavens along with the brilliance, surging into the residence of 9 Supremes like a tsunami. No, it should be the Palace of 9 Supremes now. Dongfang Haoran, Shimen Fufu, and the others stared expectantly at the spiritual qi storm in the sky. In just 3 days, the residence of 9 Supreme Celestial Luck Banner had been upgraded again, and it was a qualitative improvement. This could be said to have surpassed the weight of 2 superimposed times. 90% of the spiritual qi from the last time had not been completely transformed, and it was all hidden in the residence of 9 Supremes. This time, however, an even greater amount of heaven and earth spiritual qi was about to descend. Anyone present could tell that the benefits of the gathering of heaven and earth spiritual qi this time would definitely be greater than the last time. Then, the overall strength of the residence of 9 Supremes was bound to take another leap. Perhaps, they would witness a miracle here today. It should be another miracle. The gathering of heaven and earth spiritual qi a few days ago was already a miracle. It turned out that miracles were divided into different levels. The spiritual qi storm surged in like the collapse of the sky, surging into the Palace of 9 Supremes. Witnessing such a grand occasion with his own eyes, even Shimen Fufu could not help but whisper into Dongfang Haoran's ear, "Dongfang, the residence of 9 Supremes has become the Palace of 9 Supremes. The next target is you. Are you shocked? Are you panicking?" Dongfang Haoran smiled faintly. "What are you shocked about? What are you panicking about? I don't believe that your ancestors didn't leave behind a prophecy." Shimen Fufu was stunned, his eyes widening. "You mean?" Dongfang Haoran said slowly, "You really don't know? The demon clan is already in chaos. Perhaps the great cause of 1,000 years is right in front of us. What's a little personal honor?" Shimen Fufu and Beigong Liuli's faces turned unprecedentedly solemn. From this moment until the spiritual qi storm ended 7 days later, the 4 rulers did not say a word. Although the gathering of heaven and earth spiritual qi had only lasted for 7 days, the overall scale of the spiritual qi was 30% more than the previous one. The reason why it lasted was shorter was because the experts in the Palace of 9 Supremes had improved in quality. Naturally, the amount of spiritual qi that these people could consume in a unit of time was much greater. Therefore, the duration of the spiritual qi gathering this time was mostly consumed by their own people. After all, the residence of 9 Supremes did not only have Yun Yang who had reached the pinnacle of cultivation, but it also had a dozen experts who were above the level of Saint Lord. The residence of 9 Supremes had undergone another huge change after this promotion. Everything was changing. The change this time was not only good news, but also bad news. More than 700 of the residents of 9 Supremes' disciples had died in the high pressure of the spiritual chi storm this time. The mystical chi in these disciples had boosted their cultivation base with the elevation of the celestial luck banner. This was supposed to be a good thing, as it could be completely turned into their own after a period of consolidation. However, the residents of 9 Supremes' promotion to the Palace of 9 Supremes came one after the other. The time interval was too short. Many of them who were not talented enough, had poor temperament, and were not strong enough had their meridians shattered. Even if they could be repaired by the spiritual chi, they had to face the endless spiritual chi rushing through their meridians again, shattering them and repairing them again. The process was rather long. It was a full 7 days. It was inevitable that some of them could not withstand it. During one of the shattering, they lost their focus and died, their souls scattered. No one knew all of this at the time. Everyone in the residence of 9 Supremes was in the same painful and torturous situation. They could barely hold on, so how could they care about others? The spiritual chi storm this time was definitely a good thing for the people of the residence of 9 Supremes. It was really a good thing from the sky. After eating and digesting it, one could ascend to heaven in a single step. However, if one could not eat it or digest it, one would only choke to death and die from overeating. If one wanted a good thing to fall from the sky, one would only be smashed to death by the pie that fell from the sky without ability, aptitude, comprehension, luck, and, without these conditions. In the end, those who managed to survive in the Palace of 9 Supremes' territory had their auras elevated. This included Dongfang Haoran and others. The one who benefited the most was Yun Yang. Not only was his cultivation unhindered, but he had also accumulated his cultivation base all the way to the pinnacle of half-saint. He had also absorbed the abundant spiritual chi for 2.5 consecutive days. If it were not for this fellow who had intercepted almost 15% of the spiritual chi storm, the spiritual chi storm could have lasted for at least another day. Yin Yang was obviously trying to break through to the level of saint in one fell swoop by draining the pond. However, to break through to the level of saint required an opportunity and comprehension. It was not something that could be achieved with an endless amount of spiritual chi. Yin Yang had yet to take this step. Dong Qitian, on the other hand, had forcefully broken through to half-saint, but he had paid a hefty price for it. His internal organs had been shattered 3 times. Fortunately, he had broken through in the end and his cultivation base had risen all the way to half-saint intermediate level. Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu's cultivation base had also improved by leaps and bounds, reaching the pinnacle of 4th grade Saint Emperor. The two women's situation was different from Yun Yang's. Other than having a strong foundation, their foundations had long been perfected, and they only needed the support of a massive amount of spiritual chi to reach the pinnacle of Saint Emperor. This time, they had reached this level as they wished, but if they wanted to break through again, they would have to follow the same routine as the others. The Demiurge Flawed 10 had also made their own breakthroughs. Among them, Shi Wuchen and Luo Dajiang, who had the highest cultivation base, had advanced to the intermediate level of 4th grade Saint Emperor, while Tai Qingsang and Lan Ruojuan were beginner-level 4th grade Saint Emperors. The weakest among the others had also reached the 3rd grade Saint Emperor. Xiao Wui had broken through to the beginner-level 3rd grade Saint Emperor, while Ping Zhenyue had broken through to the 2nd grade Saint Emperor. Compared to these people who had broken through to the level of Saint Emperor, Yun Xiuxin, Hu Xiaofan, and Bai Yexing among the first-generation disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes had also reached the level of Saint Emperor. Among them, Yun Xiuxin and Hu Xiaofan were the strongest, having reached the pinnacle of 1st grade Saint Emperor, while Bai Yexing had also reached the pinnacle of 1st grade Saint Emperor. The other eldest disciples had stopped at the pinnacle of 4th grade Saint Emperor, only half a step away from breaking through. Among the 100 eldest disciples of the residents of 9 Supremes, except for one who had exploded and died midway, the rest were all Saint Venerables. As for the other disciples, the number of Saint Emperor cultivators in the residence of 9 Supremes had reached 3,000. Even the weakest of the other disciples were at the saint level. The other disciples here referred to all the disciples who had joined the palace of 9 Supremes, including those little fellows who had never participated in a battle. More than 8,000 people had also risen like a rocket with the help of this wave of spiritual chi. Chirp. Chirp. This non-human creature, who had naturally followed Yun Yang to the residence of 9 Supremes, had not only recovered from its previous injuries, but its cultivation base had also soared to the level of 4th grade Saint Emperor. However, this was not the main point. The main point was that its head was now covered with fiery red fur, and it was no longer bald. Among the 5 whiteys, the 4 Eclipse Panther whiteys had successfully advanced to the pinnacle of 3rd grade Saint Emperor. As for the remaining Lightning Cat, the process of advancement was extremely dangerous. Its meridians and internal organs had exploded more than a dozen times, but the benefits of the essence of the 9-life cat that Bai Bingxian had imparted to it were obvious. In the end, it had advanced to the level of 4th grade Saint Emperor without any mishap. Although it was far behind the other whiteys, it was already a unique and unparalleled ancient cat. Speaking of danger, the Lightning Cat had gone through the crisis of exploding more than a dozen times, but the most dangerous one in this breakthrough was little fatty Qian Duo Duo. His aptitude was not considered good. Even though he had been staying in the residence of 9 Supremes in recent years and experienced the baptism of endless spiritual essence, he was different from the other disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes. The most he did was to manage the sex affairs and business operations, and he rarely cultivated himself. It was like staying in Spirited Mountain all year round, but he rarely absorbed the mountain's spiritual essence. It was because of this that Yun Yang had taken care of Qian Duo Duo during this breakthrough, and when it came to the critical moment, he would only take care of Qian Duo Duo alone. Without Yun Yang's protection, little Fatty would have died at least 20 to 30 times during this process of advancement. He would not have been able to hold on half a day after the spiritual chi storm began to pour in. In fact, it was also because of this that so many disciples of the residence of 9 Supremes had died. Otherwise, if Yun Yang had used his divine sense to protect them, the death toll of 700 people would have been reduced by at least 70%. There was also one more thing. The moment the spiritual chi storm formed, Yun Yang had moved Emmy out of the space, along with the divine edge and the purple jade flute, as well as the miniature residence of 9 Supremes. He had done it so discreetly that even the rulers did not notice it. It had been a full 7 days. Even when the high pressure of the spiritual chi storm had disappeared, the spiritual chi in the residence of 9 Supremes was still abundant, as if it had turned into an ocean of spiritual chi. In addition, the spiritual chi this time was completely innate spiritual chi, mixed with some Taoist rhymes that resembled the breath of heaven. A miracle. Just like what Dongfang Haoran had said, miracles had different levels, and this time, it was obviously a special case that was even more miraculous than a miracle. It could only be described as a miracle. These people were the ones who had witnessed a miracle. On the 8th day, the spiritual chi storm had ended. However, Dongfang Haoran's expression changed. Everyone, leave immediately. They had actually chased him away forcefully. After the spiritual chi storm ended, before Yun Yang had woken up from his meditative state, the 4 rulers had already started to chase them away. All of you, leave quickly. Go back and digest what you've gained, consolidate the benefits you've gained this time, and prepare for war. I reckon that the war with the demon race will take place within these 3 to 5 years. Zhang Wufei and the rest left reluctantly. Of course they would. The spiritual chi density of the residence of 9 Supremes now far exceeded that of the 3 heavenly palaces, by a few times. Perhaps, the residence of 9 Supremes had already become the world's #1 blessed land. Well, it should be called the Palace of 9 Supremes now. Besides, we haven't bid farewell to our master, and Yun Yang is still meditating. Why would he chase us away so early? Everyone was extremely puzzled by this point. However, no one dared to stay when the 4 rulers chased them away. Even the elders and sons of the three heavenly palaces, as well as the beast kings of Tian Fa Holy Land, were chased off the main peak, not allowed to linger. Comparisons are odious, and comparisons are odious. On the way out, Zhang Wufei could not stop muttering, back then, when the Sacred Heart Palace obtained the gold-class Celestial Luck Banner, they were only blessed by the spiritual Qi storm for 3 days, and it was all acquired level spiritual Qi, but everyone was so happy then, thinking that they'd reached the heavens in a single bound. Now, looking at the treatment the residence of 9 Supremes is receiving, even this old man feels jealous. The other temple leaders and divine lords were also filled with envy and jealousy. There was no comparison at all. Such a miracle was something that they could not even dream of. The residence of 9 Supremes' ascension is a foregone conclusion. Guanmai, from the Sacred Soul Palace, smiled bitterly. The Sacred Soul Palace had now become the Sacred Soul Sect. In the past few days, Guanmai had completely adjusted his mentality. Just looking at the residence of 9 Supremes' ascension alone was enough to make him give up completely. The residence of 9 Supremes' ability had grown at least tenfold during this period of time. 10 days ago, the residence of 9 Supremes might have needed to mobilize a lot of forces and trump cards to defeat the Sacred Soul Sect. But now, the higher-ups of the residence of 9 Supremes only needed to mobilize one person other than Yun Yang to wipe out the entire Sacred Soul Sect. The difference was like heaven and earth. Lu Changfeng mused, "Do you think the Palace of 9 Supremes' next target will be the Sky Palace?" As soon as this question came out, everyone's expression changed. Then, they all shut their mouths. The question was too sensitive. Qian Xingjin walked in the middle of the crowd, his expression extremely solemn. After descending the mountain, the Li clan and the Sikong clan left first, but Qian Xingjin specially rushed over to see them off, giving each clan a farewell gift, trying his best to be as attentive as possible. The two family leaders held the gifts that Qian Xingjin had carefully selected, their expressions strange, as if they did not really want to accept them. Family leader Li sighed a few times and said after a moment of silence, "Brother Qian, our 3 families are the top 3 aristocratic families in the world. We have been together for a long time, and we naturally have a friendship. Therefore, I have something to say first. If I have offended you, I apologize in advance." Family leader Qian said, "Brother Li's words are sincere. Please say it." "I believe Brother Qian has seen the current situation of the Palace of 9 Supremes. This time, the Palace of 9 Supremes has risen to the sky. If I'm not wrong, the Palace of 9 Supremes will probably be quiet for a period of time after today to digest the great benefits of this promotion. When it reopens its doors, it will grow into a behemoth that is no weaker than the Eastern Celestial Palace." As he spoke, family leader Sikong nodded in agreement, but at the same time, his face was full of worry. Family leader Qian's expression grew darker and darker. "So, if Brother Qian has any grudges with the Palace of 9 Supremes in the past, it's better to resolve them as soon as possible. If this conflict is left for the future, I'll say something right here. Once the conflict explodes, not only will I not dare to help you, I won't even dare to say a word of support." Family leader Li sighed. Family leader Sikong looked conflicted as well. "Me too." The situation is stronger than the person. Qian Xingjin's heart turned cold as he said, "Our 3 families are of the same breath and branch, and we have always been friendly. There is no force in this world that can shake the alliance of our 3 families, no matter how powerful the Palace of 9 Supremes is." Family leader Li interrupted him with a wave of his hand and said, "Brother Qian, you think too highly of the Li family. We are of the same breath and branch. Don't say anything more. I've discussed it with Brother Sikong just now. It's best for our 3 families to dissolve the alliance from now on. Brother Li, Brother Sikong, our 3 noble families have been in this world for tens of thousands of years. We've been through all kinds of storms and waves. Are the 2 of you so afraid of the Palace of 9 Supremes, a newly founded sect that rose by luck? The times make the heroes, and the heroes make the times. The Palace of Nine Supremes is now at its zenith, with unparalleled luck, but I don't deny that the Palace of Nine Supremes is enough to affect the survival of our two families. Therefore, we dare not make the slightest move. At this moment, family leader Qian actually saw the envy towards him in family leader Li's eyes. Envy. The perception almost made Qian Xingjin think that he had seen wrongly. I'm so miserable now, and you're still envious of me? What do I have to be envious of? Brotherly, you. Qian Xingjin hesitated. Family leader Li sighed and said, Brother Qian, if you hadn't come after us this time, we would have, but since you're here, I might as well make things clear to you. He paused, and when family leader Sikong smiled bitterly, he continued, in fact, the residents of Nine Supreme's strong rise will affect all the sects in this world to a considerable extent. If there are no accidents, the Qian family must be one of the few families that can stay out of it and keep most of their families safe. Qian Xingjin's expression suddenly froze. He knew very well that these two men would not speak without reason. However, he could not think of the reason at all. The Qian family is famous for being a merchant, and your businesses are spread across the world. Even if your market is invaded and suppressed, at most, your assets will only shrink, but it won't be destroyed. On the other hand, the two of us are very different. Family leader Li sighed deeply. In these few days, both of us have more freedom than Brother Qian, and we've had some contact with the residents of Nine Supreme's disciples. It's also because of these contacts that we've discovered two huge problems. Although family leader Sikong did not speak much, the worry on his thin face grew deeper. One of the problems is the residents of Nine Supreme's standard weapons. All the residents of Nine Supreme's disciples whose cultivation base has reached the level of Saint King will have their own exclusive weapons. There are not many types of weapons in the residents of Nine Supremes, only a dozen of sabers, spears, swords, and halberds. Based on the number of disciples in the residence of Nine Supremes, there should be a great business opportunity in this. However, the reality is, the exclusive weapons of the Saint King disciples are all the best in this world. Each of these weapons is enough to cause a great commotion and stir up a storm of blood. The bitterness on family leader Li Changtian's face was almost dripping. I've carefully observed and played with their weapons. Although the weapons are of the same standard, each of them is the best in terms of sharpness, toughness, and sturdiness. What's more, these weapons contain spirituality that will grow along with the cultivation base of their owners. You should know that these weapons with spirituality can grow to a level where they can repair themselves even if they're damaged. Even if we're given another 1,000,000 years, we won't be able to forge such divine weapons. However, such weapons are actually mass-produced in the residence of Nine Supremes. When the Palace of Nine Supremes reopens, its disciples, who have finished recuperating, will definitely roam the martial arts world in large numbers. By then, weapons will be a great help to them in the entire bound of universe. Other than a handful of elite weapons, the other weapons circulating in the martial arts world will only be destroyed instantly when faced with their sabers and swords. I don't even dare to think about what will happen when that time comes. Family leader Li's face was bitter. Family leader Qian sucked in a cold breath, speechless for a moment. If that was the case, the martial world would definitely exhaust all their wealth to purchase a weapon produced by the Palace of Nine Supremes, especially the ace cultivators. Once this happened, no one would choose the Li family's weapons other than those who really could not afford it. This was equivalent to kicking the Li family out of the high-end market. To a family of weaponsmiths, this was a devastating blow. A family of weaponsmiths that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years and was famous for forging weapons actually claimed that they could not forge a standardized weapon that could be mass-produced. How could this not be a joke? The Palace of Nine Supremes might not sell such a strategic weapon, will it? Family leader Qian said hesitantly. If it was just the Palace of Nine Supremes, they might not have allowed the weapons to flow out. But now, the war against the demon clan is about to begin. The Palace of Nine Supremes' divine weapons, especially those that can be mass-produced. Even if the Palace of Nine Supremes cherishes them, the 3 heavenly palaces won't allow such strategic weapons to be limited to one sect or sect. How can the 3 palace lords not see what we can see? This can already be foreseen. I think the Palace of 9 Supremes will start selling when it reopens. Family leader Li said dejectedly, no matter how unwilling the Li family is, we're still happy to see the residents of 9 Supremes provide a weapon that can save one's life and increase one's combat strength for all those who fight against the demons. Family leader Qian was dumbfounded. If this was done, he believed that most of the martial world people would still stand on the Palace of 9 Supreme side, no matter how expensive it was. As soon as the thought occurred to him, his heart turned as cold as ice. Then, Brother Sikong. Family leader Qian looked at Sikong Zhozhuan with a glimmer of hope. Do you think the residents of 9 Supreme's disciples' improved aptitude and cultivation base, and the fact that a teenage girl can become a saint emperor or a saint king, is only because of the celestial luck banner's spiritual qi? The smile on Sikong Zhozhuan's face was uglier than a crying face. Family leader Qian, medicinal pills, medicinal pills. Qian Xingjin was dumbstruck. I don't know how the residents of 9 Supreme's medicinal pills are refined, but they have reached a level where there are no side effects at all, and their effects are incredible, Sikong Zhozhuan said with a broken heart. What's more frightening is that after the Palace of 9 Supremes upgrade this time, those relatively low-end medicinal pills that won't be used in the next 100 years, will all be sold to the public. But their so-called low-end medicinal pills are even better than our high-end medicinal pills, and they have no side effects at all. Sikong Zhozhuan looked like he was about to vomit blood as he said, this time, I bought 10 bottles of different kinds of medicinal pills in one go and carefully examined them. Do you know what I saw? I saw that on every single medicinal pill, there were traces of pill clouds, the legendary traces of pill clouds. When all of us alchemists refine pills of this level together, including luck, it's already a miracle if we can refine one pill every 10 years. As he spoke, he took out a bottle of medicinal pills and slowly opened it. A cloud of pill clouds drifted out, and a round medicinal pill was poured out of the bottle. The entire pill was shrouded in a pill cloud, making it difficult to distinguish the specific shape of the pill at first glance. This went on for a while. Even when the pill came into contact with the outside air, the pill cloud did not dissipate. Instead, it grew thicker and thicker, making it a spectacular sight. The legend is true. A medicinal pill with traces of pill clouds can actually absorb the spiritual qi of heaven and earth on its own and get rid of the pill poison. Naturally, such a pill has no side effects. Sikong Zhozhuan was trembling all over. Such a pill can also be mass-produced in the residence of 9 Supremes. As long as this pill starts to be sold, our Sikong family's days will not be any better than Brother Li's. Pill poison had always been the biggest taboo of medicinal pills. For countless years, pills without pill poison had only been passed down in legends. It was said that the Situ family's ancestor had once refined a type of spiritual pill without pill poison by chance, thus establishing the Situ family's glory as a family of medicinal pills. However, after the Situ family's ancestor, the Situ family would occasionally sell a pill of pill cloud every 100 years or so. It was unknown whether the pill was left behind by the ancestor or if the Situ family had refined it out of luck. Now that the residents of 9 Supremes had such a method of mass-producing the pill cloud, how could the Situ family bow down and admit defeat? Clan leader Qian was completely stunned, so much so that he did not hear what Li Changtian and Sikong Zhozhuan said after that. His mind was in a state of chaos. He did not notice when the 2 clan leaders had left. He only felt that the world was dark. Why did Sikong Zhozhuan and Li Changtian return in such a hurry? He understood it very well. Under such circumstances, they needed to go home and discuss how to flatter the Palace of 9 Supremes. It was already a blessing from heaven to be able to follow them and let their family survive. As for going against the Palace of 9 Supremes with the Qian family, these 2 families would never dare to do so even if a knife was placed on their necks. How could human beings resist such a trend? Li family and Situ family's basic understanding was not wrong. The quality of the residents of Nine Supreme's weapons and pills had indeed reached the peak of this world, and they could be mass-produced. These were all facts, but it was also nonsense to say that they could be mass-produced without limit. The main reason why the residents of Nine Supremes could mass-produce pills and weapons was undoubtedly Emmy. Emmy was so resourceful that it could grow spiritual herbs limitlessly and refine all kinds of rare metals and metals. Complemented by Yin-Yang's swallow-plucking feathers, he had forcefully wreaked havoc on the two realms, collecting at least 20 to 30% of what the two realms had accumulated over hundreds of thousands of years. That was how the residents of Nine Supreme's current glory was built. Whether it was Emmy or Yin-Yang's swallow-plucking feathers, it would be impossible to achieve such a grand occasion without either. As the resources were consumed, even if Emmy was still producing like a fish in water, there was still a limit. Of course, when it came to the sale of elixirs and weapons, it was the best way to collect as many elixirs and rare metals as possible. If you wanted to get the best elixirs and weapons, you had to pay a great price, give a lot of elixirs, spiritual materials, and rare metals. How could you get them? Therefore, the upcoming sale of the Nine Supremes shares was not targeted at the Li family or the Situ family. It was truly fate and fate. Qian Xingjin was stunned by the words of the two family leaders, sitting outside the palace of Nine Supremes mountain gate in a daze, not moving for a long time. Before this, Leader Qian did not feel anything even if the palace of Nine Supremes was successfully upgraded. After all, he was a business family. Even if the palace of Nine Supremes was unparalleled in ability and had made up his mind to avenge Qian Duo, it was impossible for him to uproot the Qian family. After all, the Qian family's foundation was incomparable to that of the General Commerce League. The General Commerce League was only a plate of loose sand that had been forcefully assembled. The main reason was that the auction was to dispose of stolen goods. Although it was spread all over the world, it was still a single category. Once it was attacked, its power would plummet and it would be in danger. The Qian family, on the other hand, was a family of merchants that had stood tall in the bound of universe for countless years. They shared the same bloodline and had tens of thousands of years of glory and cohesion. There was a fundamental difference between them. Now, however, he felt an unprecedented chill rising from the bottom of his heart. The residence of Nine Supremes was terrifying. How could the Qian family contend against such a faction, such influence, and such strength? The five elders at the side also felt heavy in their hearts. Leader, what should we do now? You have to come up with an idea as soon as possible. I didn't expect the residents of Nine Supremes to have such a strong foundation that even our three noble families have to look up to it. Qian Xingjin was stunned for a long time before he finally snapped out of it and said urgently, "Go home immediately. Go home as fast as you can. Discuss important matters." Without further delay, the six of them tore through the air like meteors and hurried to the headquarters of the Qian family. This matter was no longer something that he, the leader of the family, could decide on. The whole family must discuss and gather their wisdom to determine what to do in order to preserve a chance of survival. However, at this moment, Qian Xingjin could already vaguely feel that a dark cloud that shrouded the entire heaven and earth was gradually turning to focus on the Qian family. It was a feeling that was both real and illusory, but it was also a real feeling of impending disaster. On the high platform of the residence of Nine Supremes' higher authorities, Dongfang Haoran and the others had yet to leave. Their gazes were fixed on the object that was floating beside Yunyang in surprise. With their status, knowledge, and experience, how could anything that could surprise them be a small matter? It was also because of this that they had driven everyone away immediately. Chapter 14:12. Although the spiritual qi storm had ended on a large scale, the spiritual qi storm around Yunyang, which was at the highest point of the storm, was still ongoing. It was also because of this that Dongfang Haoran and the others finally saw part of Yunyang's trump card for the first time. Everyone, including Dongfang Haoran and many others from the East Celestial Palace, were familiar with the divine edge. In spite of this, the saber was like a funnel that forcefully tore apart the spiritual qi of heaven and earth and sucked it in like a whale swallowing the sea. However, the slender blade, which was obviously not an ordinary length, seemed to contain a vast amount of spiritual energy. Even though it had absorbed an immeasurable amount of spiritual energy, it still did not seem to be full. In fact, it was far from being enough. As the spiritual chi was injected, the saber hummed from time to time. It was an excited hum filled with hunger and thirst, as if it could finally have a full meal. There was also a hint of bloodlust and killing intent. Dongfang Haoran could even feel the intelligence of this blade. It was letting out a light cry filled with excitement. It was thirsting for the slaughter of blood and fire, as if it was declaring war on this world. Facing such a phenomenon, even someone as accomplished as Dongfang Haoran felt an inexplicable urge to surrender. It was as if the saber represented God's will and where God's will belonged. This mighty saber was only located at the edge of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Beside the divine edge was a purple jade flute. It was a purple jade flute that struck fear into the hearts of the sons of saints. Although that saber was sharp, indestructible, and had an intimidating aura, this purple jade flute seemed to be glowing with a deep purple light and seemed to have no lethality. However, this purple jade flute was a weapon that could kill a Saint Monarch with a casual touch. A casual wave of the flute was a killing weapon that could kill countless Saint Monarchs. At this moment, the purple jade flute was still flowing with purple light as usual. The endless spiritual energy of heaven and earth seemed to be automatically surging into the purple jade flute. The momentum seemed to be inferior to the blade, but in fact, it was also endless. It was not satisfied and did not have the slightest intention of stopping. What followed was something special that had never been seen before. It was a small house that looked like a naughty child's model, but it was exceptionally exquisite. The pavilion was clear, and the hall was clear. The most striking thing was the 3 words on the lintel of the house. The residence of 9 supremes. Dongfang Haoran's pupils shrank. This small house is the real residence of 9 supremes? For a time, all 4 hegemons had a flash of understanding. This model-like house originally had a thin ribbon tied to the purple jade flute. However, as the spiritual energy from the bottom of the sky continued to pour in, the thin ribbon gradually became transparent, as if it was about to disappear. Everyone had already witnessed the might of the purple jade flute and the blade. As for this small house, it had never appeared before. Just seeing this, Dongfang Haoran and the others felt their scalps go numb. Could this small house be another trump card that Yun Yang had never used? In the battle where the purple jade flute had appeared, it had killed countless saints. Its power was earth-shattering and unrivaled, but it was still placed on the right side of this small house. Did this mean that this small house's power was even greater than the purple jade flute? Other than the saber, the flute, and the small house, there was a 4th item that was continuously absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. It was a small lotus. Yes, it was really a small lotus with a tiny leaf right by Yun Yang's feet. The lotus only had 7 leaves, and the 8th leaf was only in its infancy, with only a sharp bud. In terms of appearance, this small lotus was the most inconspicuous. It was no different from those useless potted lotus plants that were only for ornamental purposes. Other than being slightly exquisite and beautiful, there was nothing special about it. However, Dongfang Haoran and the others saw with their own eyes that this small lotus was absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth at a terrifying speed among the 4 items. The swirl of spiritual energy above the lotus connected to heaven and earth, drawing all the rich natural spiritual energy through the vast void and into the huge swirl, and then forcibly collecting it. Translator, Zephizi Editor. Dioquin, I've heard Yun Yang mention this saber before. It's called Destiny. Dongfang Haoran's expression was solemn. I don't know the rest. Shiman Fafu's eyes were filled with admiration as he said softly, the 4 treasures before us, each of them is of a level that we don't know, a level that we can't even come into contact with. The levels of these 4 treasures are beyond our knowledge, but they are also of different levels. It looks like the saber is the weakest. I don't think so. Meng Jiao was the one who disagreed. He smiled faintly and said, you guys probably didn't look closely. The saber looks like it's absorbing the least spiritual chi, but it's actually absorbing more and more. 2 hours ago, the spiritual chi it absorbed was only as thick as a bucket, but now it's almost as thick as a vat. As for the purple jade flute and the small house, they're absorbing far more spiritual chi than the saber, but they haven't changed at all. It's still unknown whether they can surpass them in the end. Shiman Fafu was shocked. You mean? This saber probably has the attribute of self-growth. It's still in its infancy until now. It needs time to slowly grow, but the purple jade flute and the small house have already matured. I agree with Meng Jiu's opinion. No one can imagine how far this saber can grow in the end, much less come to a conclusion. Dongfang Haoran said softly, I think that lotus is the most extraordinary. Beigong Lioli heaved a long sigh. No wonder, an ordinary sex advancement can only last a day or two even with the spiritual chi storm, but it's lasted for 10 days and 10 nights here. Plus, the real essence is far more than that. Dongfang Haoran's eyes glinted as he said, if I'm not wrong, these are all items that can suppress heaven and earth's providence. I'm afraid that Yun Yang doesn't have just these 4. Not just? The other 3 were stunned for a moment. Dongfang Haoran pursed his lips and said, look at the main hall, where Yun Yang lives. There's obviously a small spiritual chi whirlpool there that keeps falling. I think there's someone hiding there to share the benefits. The 3 of them looked over in shock. They saw an innate chi whirlpool the thickness of a finger shoot down from the sky, entering the main hall and disappearing without a trace. Because the whirlpool was too thin, compared to the abundance of spiritual chi in the residence of 9 Supremes, it would be difficult to notice it if not for their sharp eyes. That's also a growing one. Dongfang Haoran sighed and said, in the beginning, the whirlpool was only the thickness of a hair, but now, it's the thickness of a bowl. The difference, once he said this, the 4 of them could not help but look at each other in silence. Let them go back to their work. Don't gather here. Dongfang Haoran said faintly, on the surface, the spiritual chi whirlpool still looks like it's heading straight for Yun Yang. He then summoned Shi Wuchen. Tell everyone to go back and cultivate in seclusion, including the sons of 9 Supremes. The harvest this time is too great. If we don't digest it soon, there will be many hidden dangers, and it won't be good for us. Then over here. Shi Wuchen understood this, but he was worried about Yun Yang. You're still worried with the few of us old men here? Besides, his 2 wives are here too, and there's a hidden expert. Dongfang Haoran smiled at a void and said, don't you think so? Haha, Dong Qitian guffawed and finally showed himself. With Dong Qitian, Ji Lingxi, and Shangguan Lingxiu here, Shi Wuchen and the others were relieved and left immediately. In fact, after 2 horrifying elevations, the saber and sword Wulan Shi Wuchen, Luo Dajiang, and the others were already overflowing and uncontrollable. Among them, Shi Wuchen was the only one who was slightly better off. The rest were having a hard time dealing with it. Lan Ruojuan's clothes were torn and tattered by his own sword will. This was a sign of imbalance in one's mystical chi, mental strength, and cultivation base after a huge improvement. If it was not stopped, the imbalance would turn into a loss of control, and the situation would worsen to the point of no return. Therefore, Shi Wuchen and the others had to go into closed-door cultivation to deal with their own problems. Seeing that Shi Wuchen and the others had left, Dong Qitian was silent for a moment before finally turning his gaze to Dongfang Haoran. Dongfang Haoran looked at Dong Qitian with interest and smiled knowingly. The muscles on Dong Qitian's face twitched as he said in a low voice, Palace Lord Dongfang, it's been a while. Dongfang Haoran said, if I'm not mistaken, you're Dong Qitian? One of the 8 experts who joined forces to annihilate the soul demon. Dong Qitian sighed deeply. That's right. I didn't expect Palace Lord Dongfang to still remember me. His words were filled with emotion. His meeting with Dongfang Haoran back then was mainly because he, Lei Qianli, and the other 7 had joined forces to annihilate the soul demon. It was not too long ago, but everyone was the best of the best, and Dong Qitian was not considered outstanding among them. After all, Dong Qitian was only a pinnacle supreme saint then, not even a saint. At that time, Dong Fang Haoran was already the palace lord of the East Celestial Palace, a saint-level powerhouse, the pinnacle existence of this world, looking down on all living beings. Dong Qitian was truly surprised that such a prominent figure could still remember Dong Qitian until now. There was even a surge of warmth surging within him. *CK, after more than 4,000 years, there's finally someone who remembers me. Joining the residence of 9 Supremes is a great opportunity. You've improved so fast. Dong Fang Haoran smiled. Dong Qitian was silent for a moment before he said, "It hasn't been long since I officially joined the residence of 9 Supremes. I've been in closed-door cultivation most of the time before that, and I've been in closed-door cultivation for 4,300 years. No wonder," Dong Fang Haoran said with a sudden realization. Dong Qitian smiled faintly and said, "It should be enough for me to be favored by Palace Lord, but there's something in my heart that I can't help but ask. I'm looking for someone, and may I ask if Palace Lord Dongfang knows his whereabouts? I've been out in the world for several years, but I've never heard of his whereabouts." Dongfang Haoran was curious. "Oh? Who's that person?" "His name is Jun Buxi." Dong Qitian's eyes were bright. "I've remembered this name for more than 4,000 years. It's really unforgettable and indelible. It was this person who captured me in the blink of an eye. I believe this person should have a place among the top experts in the bound of universe. Does Palace Lord Dongfang know?" Dongfang Haoran was confused. Jun Buxi? He searched his mind but realized that he had no recollection of this name at all. He turned to look at Shiman Fafu, who shook their heads at the same time. "I've never heard of this name." Python 9 shook his head in confusion as well. "Jun Buxi? I don't think I've heard of this name. The few rulers have never heard of Jun Buxi as well?" Dong Qitian was stunned. Thinking back to that year, that person had inexplicably found him. In the beginning, he was very polite, drank 2 cups of wine, and got along very well. But for some reason, he suddenly turned hostile and wanted to spar with him. Then, he got into a good posture and circulated his qi, but that person only used one finger to knock him down to the ground, and then captured him and locked him in that secluded cave. Then, naturally, it would be the long 4,000 years after that. They had never seen each other again. Dong Qitian had always thought that the fellow must at least be a Lord Saint with such a high cultivation base, and not a low-level one at that. He must be famous in the bound of universe. Dong Qitian had never heard of this name, probably because he was ill-informed. After all, he was only a Lord Saint back then, so it was not surprising that he did not know about the world's top powerhouses. However, when he asked the 4 rulers, it was strange that none of them had heard of this person. "What does this person look like? Perhaps the name you know is just an alias?" Shiman Fafu asked, intrigued. "This person's appearance." Dong Qitian was about to continue when he was stunned. He scratched his head and said in distress, "Not tall, not short. Not handsome, not ugly. Not fat, not thin. Not fair, not dark. His age. Not too old, not too young." After a few words, he stopped abruptly. He realized in shock that he had no more impression of that person. That was all he could remember, but the words he described were extremely vague. If that was the case, he might as well not say it at all. The 4 rulers, however, looked grim. "You're saying that you can't remember that person's appearance?" "Yes." "Your cultivation base was already at the 4th level of Holy Venerate then?" "That's right." With the cultivation of a 4th grade Saint Venerable, how could he not remember a person's appearance? Especially someone as unforgettable as this. Dong Qitian's expression darkened for a moment. "What do you mean? Why are you telling me everything when you bully others with your higher cultivation base? I've already told you everything that happened 4,000 years ago. What's so strange about not remembering it?" However, looking at Dongfang Haoran and the other three rulers' expressions, it did not look like they were playing a prank. Dongfang Haoran said, "Elder Dong, do you still remember when he drank with you twice? Did he say anything special?" "I think he only said a few strange things." Dong Qitian hung his head dejectedly. Sigh, he could not even defeat one of the four in front of him, even if he was being teased, he could only endure it. He had grown used to Yun Yang's fear recently. What did he say? The four of them asked in unison. Dong Qitian finally felt that something was amiss. These four seemed to be too concerned about what had happened to him. Meng Jiao said solemnly, "Elder Dong, this old man has to say this solemnly. A person who has imprisoned him for 4,000 years should not only have an unforgettable memory, but also have a vivid impression of him. Not to mention that Elder Dong was already a pinnacle holy venerate back then. It's already very unusual that you can't remember what he looks like." Dong Qitian shuddered. Yes, this was indeed unusual. He should have thought of this unusualness a long time ago. He was not a fool, he did not need anyone's reminder to understand this. However, why had he taken it for granted all these years? Why had he been so used to it? He had always thought that it was normal to forget. This was the biggest anomaly. Beads of sweat the size of soybeans rolled down Dong Qitian's face as he thought about it. His heart was pounding. He asked me to drink twice then. I only remember that we had a good time together, but I really can't remember what he said specifically. Dong Qitian felt that he was becoming more and more abnormal. He tugged at his hair and tried hard to recall. Finally, his eyes lit up as he said, he liked the word Qitian in my name, so, it's a pity that he died. Dong Qitian dug through his memories, only to realize that he only remembered 2 sentences. He could not help but feel even more conflicted. However, Dongfang Haoran and the other 3 suddenly shuddered when they heard the 2 sentences, their expressions changing drastically. "What's wrong? The 4 of you." Dong Qitian immediately felt that something was amiss. "You've been imprisoned for 4,300 years, Dongfang Haoran was speechless for a moment. After a while, he said with an indescribable tone of shock, "You've been imprisoned for 4,300 years and only recently escaped. You must not know that 4,900 years ago, the demon clan had a war with us humans? The incident at the Soul Demon Clan that day was, to a considerable extent, facilitated by the demon clan, intending to cause chaos among the human race. Although it was destroyed by the aid of you, it had caused great losses, especially the loss of holy venerables. In the subsequent battle for the ownership of the Blood Soul Altar, both sides agreed to send 20 experts below the Holy Lord level to fight to the death at the Blood Soul Altar. The winner could occupy the Blood Soul Altar. In that battle, the human side lost. None of the 24th grade Holy Venerables survived, all buried in the Blood Soul Mountain. On the Demon Clan's side, among the 20 demon marshals, there was one who still had half a breath left. His demon soul had clearly been obliterated, but he held on until the end of the battle. His last breath did not die, and he won the battle. The Blood Soul Altar was renamed the Demon Soul Altar, and until today, it is still in the hands of the Demon Clan. And you, Dong Qitian, Jade Sword Supremacy, and the other 7 were among the 20 people who were scheduled to fight at that time. However, Lei Qianli, who belonged to the Sacred Heart Palace, said that his vitality was greatly damaged in the battle at the Soul Demon Clan and was unable to fight again. And you, your whereabouts were suddenly unknown, and you had to find someone else to replace you. This is also the fundamental reason why I can remember you. Dongfang Haoran's eyes were bright, with a kind of incredulous surprise. You just said, that person said, it would be a pity if you died? Dong Qitian was dumbstruck. There was such a thing? F***ck, so I'm remembered because I didn't participate in the battle. Motherf***ker, isn't I the one who chickened out in front of these people? All these years, we've always wanted to use the same method to reclaim the Blood Soul Altar, but we've fought more than 40 battles every 100 years, and we've never won. That's why more than 800 peak 4th grade holy venerables died in the blood soul altar. Dongfang Haoran heaved a long sigh and said, previously, when Supreme Cloud went to the East Celestial Palace, he accidentally mentioned it when we were chatting. He asked why the number of peak 4th grade holy venerables was less than the number of 1st grade holy venerables. This is the reason. How many of our brothers fought knowing that they would die? What about the demon clan? Is the demon clan really so powerful that they won no one in more than 40 battles? Dong Qitian clenched his fists. The demon clan's losses in this battle are no less than ours. It's just that the demon clan does have a unique advantage in this aspect. They have a lot of lives. For example, the 9 lives cat. Facing such a demon clan, you need to kill them at least 9 times before you can destroy them from this world. This is not a legend, but an inevitable fact when one's demon technique has been cultivated to a certain level. Dongfang Haoran sighed. In terms of individual combat strength, each of our men who fought were extraordinary and had the upper hand in the battle. However, they couldn't withstand the enemy's endless demon transformation technique, always managing to stay alive at the moment of death. As for our men, once they die, they're really dead. After experiencing the lessons of multiple failures, our men are prepared to fight to the death every time. Once things go south, they'll bet their soul power and perish together with the enemy. Even if they can't win, they'll bring the enemy along with them. Sigh, the 4 juggernauts sighed at the same time. Dong Qitian's thoughts wandered as he said, the bound of universe has never been lacking in heroic heroes. Yes, heroes. But it's a pity. Most heroes use their own lives in exchange for this title. They can only enjoy this title after they die. And the people that heroes use their lives to protect are usually a group of people who don't have any heroic spirit, and don't even know how to be grateful. Beigong Lioli seemed like she wanted to complain, but she stopped halfway through her sentence. Python 9, on the other hand, laughed coldly. What about those brats who specialize in harming the descendants of heroes? The moment Python 9 said that, the 3 palace lords flushed red to their ears, speechless for a moment. Only Python 9 laughed coldly. You humans have a very good saying, comparing people to each other will kill you, and comparing goods to goods, you'll throw them away. In our Tian Fa Holy Land, how are the descendants of heroes treated? They're at least 100 times stronger than you guys. Our Tian Fa's descendants will naturally nurture those with extraordinary aptitudes. However, if there are any descendants of heroes among them, other than nurturing them, the others will take a step back on their own accord even if their aptitudes are slightly better. They will willingly serve as assistants in order to allow the descendants of heroes to enjoy honor and glory. That's why for the past 17,000 years, the beast kings of Tian Fa are all descendants of heroes. The prodigies of Tian Fa who have never shed blood or lost their lives are not qualified to be the beast kings. Python 9 said slowly, when I was young, I've also taken on a human form and roamed the world. In fact, there are many Xian beast seniors who have also taken on a human form and roamed the bound of universe. However, after experiencing all kinds of things in the world, as long as they're still alive, they'll choose to return to the Tian Fa Holy Land to retire. Even at the last moment of their lives, they'd rather use forbidden techniques to prolong their lives and wait for the final battle with the demon clan. Do you know what everyone's common sense is? Python 9 laughed mockingly. Everyone who has taken on a human form and roamed the world has a similar experience. For the first 10 years, they're willing to risk their lives for their friends. For the next 10 years, they're willing to give up all their possessions for their friends. Only their lives are not something they're willing to give up. For the next 10 years, they're willing to pay some price, but they're not willing to affect their own lives and survival for the sake of their friendship. Another 10 years, they're even more indifferent to watching the clouds roll by, watching life and death coldly from the sidelines. And the last 10 years, they've seen the world of mortals. They're disheartened and bored. Only by returning to the Tian Fa Holy Land would they be able to regain a shred of peace. Even though they still have many years left, they're not willing to go out again. Shiman Fanfu's face sank. Python 9 continued, over time, our Tian Fa Holy Land named this experience as the 50 Years of Mortals. Even today, the Tian Fa Holy Land has brewed many wines with this name. Yes, it's a set of 5 pots of wine. It takes 10 years to brew 5 pots for a week, but it's unbearable to drink and reminisce about. Python 9's eyes were filled with mockery before he burst out laughing. In spite of this, none of the 3 palace lords, including Ji Lingxi, Shangguan Lingxiu, and Dong Qitian laughed. On the contrary, everyone's expression was somber, even a little ashamed. What Python 9 said might not be everything in the world, but it was at least the most common phenomenon. The human heart was treacherous and unpredictable. This was an unchanging truth. Compared to the simple-minded mystical beasts who transformed into human forms and entered the human world, how could they not be discovered after a long period of interaction? Once they discovered it, they would naturally overthink it. It should be known that a Xian beast's entire body was a treasure to a human. Consuming its flesh could boost one's cultivation base, greatly increasing one's ability. Consuming its inner core would boost one's foundation, bringing many benefits. Not to mention, its fur could be made into armor, its bones could be refined into weapons. If one could tame a living one, not only would it be a powerful combat force, it could also be a weapon to show off. The mystical beasts had encountered this many times. Other than resentment, there was also a sense of understanding. Python 9 sighed. The great ancestor left a strict order for us not to be sentimental about the human world. What a wise decision, truly insightful. To the simple-minded mystical beasts, entering the human world to train is a process of sharpening one's will and widening one's knowledge. It's a good thing to see the evil of the human heart and the unpredictable martial world. Ji Lingxi mused. That's right. The topic felt like a mountain was pressing down on everyone's hearts, so heavy that they did not want to speak anymore. Dong Qitian said in a daze, about me. Dong Fang Haoran chuckled bitterly. About you? Haven't you already told me your story? Dong Qitian was speechless. We have nothing to say about this, and we dare not say it, Shiman Fafu said bluntly. Shiman Fafu said bluntly, even though we seem to be high above the masses and can see through a normal person's past and present with just a glance, we still can't see the future of a practitioner above the holy venerable level. Cultivators above the level of supreme saint? It's obvious that they can't even see through saint kings and saint emperors. Beigong Lioli chuckled bitterly. But that person obviously saw what would happen decades or even millennia later. That's why you've escaped. When you came out again, you were already a Saint Lord cultivator, and you met Yun Yang, the Golden Age. Once again, you encountered a great battle, and it was a decisive battle, the final battle. Dongfang Haoran smiled bitterly as well. How dare we guess a plot set up by such a person? How dare we ask? What if? The 3 rulers paled at the same time. Dong Qitian, on the other hand, was even more confused. So, this Jun Buxi. Other than imprisoning me, he's actually never existed in the martial world, right? The 3 palace lords chuckled bitterly at the same time. This question, what kind of existence was it? Even if it existed, as long as it didn't want you to know, then you would never know. But why do I feel that he's very famous in the martial world? In short, it's like he's very impressive? Dong Qitian was utterly confused. Am I too blind? Python 9 smiled faintly. Don't ask for more. A person like that, let alone giving you a vague feeling, even if he made you feel like you've had an affair with your wife for 18 lifetimes, you'd believe it without a doubt. Dong Qitian's face flushed as he glared at Python 9, hissing through gritted teeth, Python 9. He had actually called out the 4 rulers' names right in front of their faces. It was obvious how angry Python 9's words were. Python 9 coughed dryly and said, I'm just making an example. Please don't take it to heart, Elder Dong. Dong Qitian huffed and puffed, his fists clenched tightly as he glared at Python 9, wanting very much to punch him. Dongfang Haoran and the others laughed. Although Python 9 spoke like a human, he was still a mystical beast at the core of his being. He could not be like a human when it came to the details of the human world. Dong Qitian was on the verge of exploding with that one sentence. Let's see what this old man would do. Seeing that Dong Qitian was still fuming, Python 9 paused, looking slightly lost. He coughed dryly and said softly, "The human heart is treacherous and full of thoughts. What I said must be unforgivable and heinous to you. Fine, since I've said the wrong thing, I'll let you punch me. I won't circulate my energy to defend myself." As he spoke, he took a step forward. Boom! Dong Qitian did not hold back, landing a heavy punch on Python 9's face. Python 9 kept his word and did not circulate his chi to defend himself. Dong Qitian's punch sent him flying more than 30 feet away. He bared his teeth. What a heavy punch. Dong Qitian was suddenly deflated as he vented the force of his punch. Naturally, he could see that Python 9 was giving him face. With Python 9's saint-level cultivation base, even if he did not circulate his energy to defend himself, Dong Qitian would not have been able to move him. Python 9's act of being sent flying by Dong Qitian could be said to be demeaning himself. It was a great show of apology. But, what he said just now, why did it seem like he was implying that I was narrow-minded? Forget it. When I reach saint-level cultivation base in the future, I'll go and spar with Senior Python 9. Dong Qitian said nothing more. Admiration flashed in the eyes of Dongfang Haoran and the others. Facing Python 9, a Lord Saint actually dared to attack with all his might and even spat out such harsh words after Python 9 apologized. This fellow was very arrogant. Python 9 guffawed. There aren't many humans who are as bold as you. I'll wait for you. The impact of the punch was huge. It was not just Dongfang Haoran and the others, but even Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu felt that the punch was manly enough. Daughter-in-law is going on a trip with mother-in-law tomorrow. My freedom is coming. GT. Chapter 14-13. Shangguan Lingxiu's eyes darted around as she asked, "Elder Dong, are your original family members still around?" "They're long gone." Dong Qitian sighed. Shangguan Lingxiu replied, "Oh. In that case, I have a suitable candidate here. Elder Dong, what do you think of Ping Zhanyue? Are they worthy of your discerning eyes?" Dong Qitian spat out a mouthful of blood. For a moment, he was dumbfounded and tongue-tied, speechless for a long time. Dong Qitian almost ran away from Shangguan Lingxiu's words. It was only because he was worried about Yun Yang that he dared not leave. Otherwise, he would have run off to God knows where. He curled up in a corner, not daring to make a sound. Why is she trying to find me a wife with just a few words? What the hell is this, come to think of it? Ping Zhanyue isn't too bad. She's already a saint now, so it's not too much of a disgrace. The spiritual chi storm continued under the Palace of Nine's supreme celestial luck banner that had evolved into a golden luster. Yun Yang, the tiny residence of Nine Supremes, the purple jade flute, and Emmy's divine edge continued to absorb the spiritual chi. Meanwhile, Gigi, who knew that it had caused trouble and could only hide in the main hall, was also swallowing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth without restraint. Dongfang Haoran revealed an expression of relief. "Brothers, it looks like we can relax a little." Shiman Fafu smiled and said, "After the series of changes, not only has the Holy Lord's combat strength been greatly damaged, even our Tao hearts have been damaged, and our strength has inevitably been greatly reduced. However, with the addition of a new force like the residents of Nine Supremes, the battle against the demons may not be a sure win, but at least it won't be as difficult as we imagined. The heavenly Tao is still on our side." Beigong Lioli sighed softly and said, "The addition of Yun Yang alone will greatly increase our luck. Perhaps we can wipe out the demonic plague with this battle." Meng Jiao chimed in coldly, "Wiping out the demon race is not an easy task." Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation in the Bound of Universe, there were humans, demons, and mystical beasts. The combined combat power of the demon race was the strongest, but because of the human race's talents and the mystical beast's assistance, they had been able to compete for tens of thousands of years. If the demon race was truly wiped out and the tripartite balance of the three races was gone, the humans would probably shift their focus to the mystical beasts. In the end, there might only be one race left in the world, and in the end, even this race would not survive. This was the foresight of the three races. It wasn't that Beigong Lioli didn't know this, but in the countless wars between the two races, the humans had always been the weaker side. It was rare for them to have the chance to turn the tables on the demons. That was why she blurted out the words of exterminating the demons. Dongfang Haoran laughed. We'll discuss this matter later. His laughter was particularly joyous. In the past, we discussed more about how to defend, how to stabilize, and how to protect the border between humans and demons. But now, we are discussing whether there is a possibility of exterminating the demon race. Regardless of whether we succeed in the end, it is still a great improvement. When the four sovereigns heard this, they all smiled. This was indeed a huge improvement. Dongfang Haoran looked at Python 9 and said, Python 9, you fought with the Dragon Emperor and Phoenix Emperor. What do you think of them? Python 9 snorted and said, which one of us hasn't fought them before? Why are you only asking me? Beigong Lioli said, the Phoenix Monarch and the Dragon Monarch have fought a few times, and their performances have fluctuated between strong and weak. At least in my opinion, it's hard to determine their strength. I even suspect that the two of them have already severed their true selves. Dongfang Haoran said with a frown, this is also my concern. If it's a life-and-death battle, I'm not confident that I can withstand the Dragon Monarch. Of course, that's the most pessimistic situation. We have to face the enemy on the battlefield in order to determine which stage he has reached. Everything is evaluated with the worst-case scenario in order to ensure our safety. Even if there's an accident, there's still room to maneuver. Shiman Fafu looked in Yun Yang's direction and said faintly, I've fought with the Falcon Monarch in the past. All of you should know about that battle. After I came back that time, I recuperated for 30 years. The battle 3,000 years ago is still fresh in my memory. The Falcon Monarch's cultivation base then was already at the pinnacle of half-saint, half a step away from saint level. However, according to the information Yun Yang sent back, the strongest combat power that the demon race has shown now, including the Phoenix Monarch and Demon Monarch, is only at the level of half-saint. It doesn't look like they're faking it either. It's strange that they're holding back. Judging from the damage Yun Yang has caused to the demon race and the Phoenix Monarch's determination to kill Yun Yang, he definitely didn't hide his strength. At least, his ability back then was only at the pinnacle of half-saint. But this is impossible, it doesn't make sense. Dongfang Haoran said in a low voice. Shiman Fafu said, I've long suspected that the Dragon Monarch and the Phoenix Monarch might be cultivating a unique cultivation method, a true physical clone, which caused their physical state to be incomplete or even flawed. However, where exactly is their true form? This is a question that needs to be discussed. Speaking of the demon race's strength, the four rulers all looked worried. It was said that with the participation of the residents of 9 Supremes, the human race's chances of winning had increased tremendously, but the demon race's higher-ups were undoubtedly stronger than the bound of universe humans. For so many years, the two races had been at loggerheads with each other. However, the four rulers, including Python 9, were gradually unable to bear the burden. Recently, they had personally experienced the unfilial behavior of their successors. They felt sorry for their former comrades and heroes, and found it increasingly difficult to continue. If not for the appearance of powerful reinforcements, which gave everyone a shot in the arm, perhaps the war between the two races would have ended in mutual destruction. Most of the time, surviving and persevering was the longest torture. After the spiritual chi storm in the Palace of 9 Supremes disappeared, the spiritual chi storm that Yun Yang and the rest had attracted alone lasted for a full day and night before the variation came to an end. The purple jade flute was the first to finish absorbing the spiritual qi and vanished without a trace. Then, the tiny residence of 9 supremes vanished without a trace. After that, Emmy seemed to have reached its limit as well, returning to the deific consciousness space without a breath of life left. After another hour, the divine edge finally stopped absorbing and fell back into Yun Yang's hands. It was only then that the torment finally came to an end. The spectators, including Dongfang Haoran, felt waves of exhaustion. It had lasted for too long. Even if one's body was fine, one's heart was tired. Seeing Yun Yang walking down from above, full of energy and vigor, Dongfang Haoran could not help but feel an urge to lash out at him. "You're finally done." When Shiman Fafu said this, his tone was tinged with emotion. "Yun Yang thanks the 4 seniors for protecting me," Yun Yang said sincerely. "There's no need to protect me. We only asked to disperse the crowd, but this is necessary." Dongfang Haoran's face was dark as he said, "Everyone has their own secrets and trump cards. Yun Yang, you've used your trump card this time. Although it's a good opportunity to absorb spiritual qi and increase the strength of your trump card, it's still a little unwise. The advantages may not outweigh the disadvantages." How could Yun Yang not know the advantages and disadvantages? He was a little annoyed about it as well. He chuckled bitterly and said, "When the spiritual qi storm started, everyone was focused on their own matters. Who would pay attention to anything else? I thought it was fine since the battle was imminent. If I could increase my ability, I'd have a higher chance of winning. I didn't expect that after the spiritual qi storm had ended, these fellows were still absorbing spiritual qi, causing the situation to go out of control." Yun Yang was also helpless about this. He did not expect the situation to change so drastically. Dongfang Haoran was speechless as well. They had only realized it after the spiritual qi storm had ended. If the spiritual qi storm had ended, Emmy and the rest would have stopped as well. Even Dongfang Haoran and the others would not have noticed it. "Alright, there's no need to mention this anymore." Dongfang Haoran said, "We've covered it up for you. Other than the 4 of us, no one else has seen it." "That's great." Yun Yang nodded and thanked them again. Actually, with Yun Yang's current cultivation base and ability, these trump cards might not be of much use. After all, Yun Yang had already reached the pinnacle of half-saint pinnacle and was only a step away from entering the level of a saint. With this cultivation base, Yun Yang had nothing to worry about in the entire bound of universe, other than a very limited few people. As long as he had the purple jade flute, Yun Yang felt that he could even go all out against a saint. He might be able to handle it. Besides, had his trump cards really been exposed? Not necessarily. Even if someone saw them, it would be hard for them to know what they were for. This made the opportunity to strengthen these trump cards even more difficult to come by. While the pros and cons were mixed, Yun Yang was leaning towards the side where the pros outweighed the cons. In spite of this, the thing that delighted Yun Yang the most was that his spiritual qi, sealed by the demon race's sky-sealing skill, was gradually breaking through the seal. As long as he channeled all his cultivation base and focused it on his face, a certain degree of recovery could be achieved. However, the seal was far from breaking, so the time Yun Yang could see his face every day was only 4 hours at most. In spite of this, it was already a huge improvement. The hardest part of breaking a seal was to have no progress at all. Once there was a flaw in the seal, it could be expanded bit by bit. With time and effort, the seal would naturally be broken completely. It was only a matter of time before he returned to being a pretty boy again. As long as the seal was broken, his manifestation powers that he had not used for a long time could be restored. He could go anywhere in the world. Besides, when he returned to being a pretty boy, Ji Lingxi could not, but Shangguan Lingxiu could, heh heh heh. Yin Yang could not help but chuckle wretchedly as he thought about it. The 4 rulers gave him a sidelong glance in disdain. The rest of the Temple of 9 Supremes can go cultivate now. We have something to discuss with Lord Supreme Cloud. Ji Lingxi and Shangguan Lingxiu were relieved to see that Yun Yang had woken up. They nodded and left while they did need to consolidate their skyrocketing abilities. There was a huge difference between having a body that could withstand the current power and being able to merge with the power and move freely like one's own arm. Let's go to the study. Half a month ago, the three of us received news that the demon race has begun to descend into chaos. Dongfang Haoran looked at Yunyang. However, it was a crucial moment for the Temple of Nine Supremes, so we didn't want to distract you. So, what chaos? Yunyang asked straightforwardly. The Fox Emperor and the Cat Emperor worked together and killed their way into the former palace of the Nine Lives Cat clan. They retrieved the Nine Lives Cat's immovable soul from a secret place and recovered their peak combat power. The Dragon Emperor was enraged and declared the two sovereigns to be the demon race's traitors and ordered the demon race to capture them. The Fox Emperor and the Cat Emperor worked together and fought their way out. They met up with the army that had been lying in ambush and returned to the territory safely. However, the demon race's war of rebellion erupted. Dongfang Haoran's expression was somber. Now, the Nine Lives Cat clan and the Fox Emperor's clan are trapped in the Fox Emperor's territory by the demon race's army of rebellion suppression. Although this is the old nest of the Fox clan that has been here for countless years and has a strong foundation, the demon race's army is coming in endlessly. The prospect of their safety is not optimistic. Shiman Fanfu sighed. I think that if they didn't have other plans, the Fox Emperor and the Cat Emperor's timing is too early and too hasty. Yunyang vaguely felt that something was amiss and said with a frown, even if the Cat Emperor is eager for revenge and is even eager to recover his peak combat power, the Fox Emperor has always been farsighted and farsighted. Why would he make such an unwise decision so hastily? I'm afraid there's more to this than meets the eye. I think so too. Dongfang Haoran said, therefore, we need you to contact the Fox Emperor and see if you can contact him. After confirming the current situation, we can wait for an opportunity to act. Me? Yunyang pointed at his own nose, looking surprised. Me and the Fox Emperor? How? Supreme Cloud, there's no need to pretend. The Fox Emperor's blood jade pendant is the best medium of communication. Dongfang Haoran said faintly, isn't that jade pendant in your hands? The Emperor's jade pendant must contain the Emperor's blood. The Fox Emperor handing the Emperor's blood jade pendant to you was a ploy, but he didn't take it back. He had the intention of long-distance communication. The Emperor's blood jade pendant contains the Fox Emperor's spiritual imprint. Isn't it your method of communication? Dongfang Haoran did not know that if he had not mentioned it, Yunyang would never have thought that it would be such a secret. Now that he heard it, he was a little dazed. Was there such a thing? Was there really such a thing? Yunyang took out the Fox Emperor's jade pendant and injected his spiritual energy into it according to Dongfang Haoran's instructions, waiting for the changes. Not long after, the jade pendant glowed brightly. As time went on, the purplish ring of light from the pendant grew larger and larger, gradually forming a door. The Fox Emperor wore a crown on his head and an imperial robe on his body, exuding the aura of a sovereign. He appeared in the door with an amiable smile and guffawed. Third brother, you must be a hero returning to the bound of universe with boundless glory. Why do you have the time to chat with me? Are you trying to kill me? You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.